cents an ounce. The rand is at 16.12 to the dollar, 21.83 to the pound, 18.70 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $91.15 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we still have got delays on the N1 North between Beyers-Naudé Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive due to an accident. There's also queuing traffic along the Makwan South between the Baklu interchange and Corlett Drive due to an earlier accident.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak in the hour. Self-proclaimed political fixer Brian Mogotsi will return to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court for his fourth bail bid.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Six minutes after 9 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to it, 702. Manyathela is not here. My name is Thabo Sholemashao. I'm happy to be in your company all the way till 12 midday. I have right from the onset to apologize for my croaky voice. I don't know what happened. I woke up like this. I've been okay all along. And when I'm supposed to be coming to work, it plays tricks on me. I've been deliberately quiet to preserve it throughout the morning. I haven't been my usual self in the office shouting and screaming at everyone, trying to save my voice for on air. And I'm feeling well. I don't have flu. I'm just okay. I just woke up like this. I don't know why. It could be that it's the work of Hades and Persephone. I am not too sure. But great having you with us nonetheless. I am thrilled. It could be that it's spring day, right? It brings about all sorts of changes. By the way, it's the 1st of September. Happy Spring Day to you. I hope that this brings about a new season of favor, of love, of blessings, of everything that is positive in your life. It could be that this is a new beginning of other things, right? And at all times, feel free to share your successes, your wins with us here on 702. We are a family after all. Just a quick heads up as to what's coming up on the show today. It is an open line from now till 10 o'clock. And on the open line, I wanted to venture something with you, especially about matric dance. There is a school principal in Northwest. He insists that this year his matrics are not going to enjoy at all their matric dance. As a matter of fact, the matric dance has been cancelled, and the story was in News 24 about the principal of Milner High School, Sam Lupuana. He cancelled the matric farewell, and he says it's because grade 12 pupils performed poorly as far as their academics were concerned. And he wrote a letter. It was dated 18 August. He told parents that the efforts to support pupils were undermined by banking. School kids do not come to school; they bank. It's the other word for that, I suppose, it's truancy, and they just miss school and they miss afternoon lessons, and they've got a disruptive behavior. Well, in that particular school, 72 out of 186 matric pupils failed term 2 exams, the June exams, what we'd call June exams. They failed. 72 out of 186 failed those exams. And so the principal is livid and is saying, you fail, you don't get to celebrate with a matric dance. I can't reward you with that. I was speaking to my colleague earlier on who's standing in for Bongani Bingwa, Ray White, and Ray says the principle is a bit unfair because matric dance is somewhat of a rite of passage that pupils go through. So you don't deny children that. You do not deny them that. You allow them to remember matric fondly as they look back. And my argument was that how do you punish people, learners collectively. That's a bit of an unfair situation there. What if Abel is doing extremely well, so you're going to punish Abel for the sins of Thabo and Keta and Sinazo and everyone else? That's what's going to happen. It can't be right. I think that's blanket disciplinary measure. It should be individualized. Listen, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It could be that you feel that if they're not performing, why then must they celebrate? But you see, matric dance, it's not just about festivity. It is about the last gathering of a collective of that particular year. Some of them have been journeying for 5 years, some even 12 years together. This is the ultimate summit of their schooling lives, at least as far as primary and high school is concerned. They will be going different ways. And for once they gather under the same roof to celebrate, to reflect, to thank their teachers, to thank each other in that spirit of camaraderie, so that when they look back at the alumni, they look back with glee, with happiness and fervor, and say, that was the year, and you would be known as the year of 1952 in the case of Ray White, or in my case, 2024. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. But on a very serious note, I would then say, why deny the children that? Why deny the children that? But maybe the principal is sending a very strong point. But do we even need metric dance in our schools right now? Is it something that we should be? Is it the hill that we should be dying on? Is it necessary at all? It comes with expensive apparel, the clothes, the vehicles that would be dropping learners off. And Ray was saying earlier on that at his metric dance, there was a learner who was dropped off by a helicopter, and everything else. All those whistles and bells about metric dance. Do they really? Should we have, I suppose, a version of metric dance where learners are all in school uniform and it happens during the day, and at 2 o'clock they go back home? They are secluded from everyone else. The occasion happens somewhere else on a normal school day, and they then have fun and in their school uniform and they go elsewhere. Is it really that important? Or maybe it could be that you have the lean on me, if you remember that movie, or is it Gangster's Paradise teacher mentality, where you have a teacher who must enforce rules in a very unconventional, unorthodox way to get the results, and they will thank them later. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. How would you feel as a parent if you got a letter that there's no metric dance this year, the learners didn't perform well, and your child got 92% average in his studies or her studies? How would you feel? Well, do share with me. I'd love to hear from you on 072 702 1702. Please send a voice note to that number and share your thoughts with me on that number. Alternatively, what I prefer is talking to you, interacting with you, and you disagreeing with me live and putting me in my spot live. It always works out better that way on 011 883 0702 011 883 0702. Well, much later on the show, the show is always interesting. Yesterday I was listening to Clement and the senior counsel there, Mr. Arendse, Advocate Arendse, and it was riveting stuff. I was very much taken aback by his response, but the feature that really stole my heart yesterday when Clement was here was when he was speaking about knowing the boundaries, or a line between self-awareness and being selfish. I thought that was something out of this world, because all of us have got interesting terminology in our vocabulary about drawing boundaries. I must self-preserve. Peace, my peace of mind is important. It could actually be selfishness because we're a community, right? But I digress. I wanted to draw your attention to what's coming up on the show a little bit later on today as well. The issue of anxiety. You know, when there are people who are very anxious when they walk into a room full of people, when they are supposed to make a call to a colleague or anyone else, they get into some frenzy of sorts. They freeze. they panic, and they become extremely uncomfortable. And we dismiss that as people being shy, being introverts, not so outspoken. But truth is, anxiety is a reality in our lives. Just because you are not anxious under those circumstances does not necessarily mean other people are not as well. So we will look into this issue of anxiety and what really it means much later on after 11:30 on the health and wellness feature. We'll be talking about social anxiety. So at 10 o'clock, you'd remember that General Feroz Khan has been subpoenaed to attend the commission. But the report suggests that he's been hospitalized. He's playing hide and seek, duck and dive, black mampatile with Madlanga Commission. And it looks like they've had it. It looks like they have had it. And so as a result, we will be taking the commission live at 10 o'clock and just hear his testimony. And he should be there. But at 10 o'clock, we'll take it live. So please stick around for that one. It's something that you don't want to miss here on 702. At 10:30, we are speaking to Salga, CEO, about fixing municipalities. This is where the rubber hits the tar. This is where neighbor meets neighbor, eye to eye, fence to fence. So how do we fix our municipalities? I mean, the ideas out there are plenty, and we are not in short of them, but we are in short of people, perhaps, who could have the will to fix municipalities. Go and look at documents that have been produced by the ANC, DA, and many other parties. Beautiful stuff on paper. I mean, they spoke about the mega cities, they spoke about the smart cities, they spoke about all sorts of stuff. But, nothing is happening, or very little is happening, just to be fair. Very little is happening to fix the municipalities. How do we go about doing that? At 11, we'll speak to Salga, to the CEO, about that. And of course, now it's time for the open line, where I will invite your calls on 011-883-0702. There are plenty of other issues that I wanted us to have a chat about. I shudder. I am a bit hesitant to raise more issues that I wanted to raise, because honestly speaking, the open line is about you. You ought to proffer stuff to us that happens in your life, because it's not every day that you get to interact with the entire South Africa. And some of the critical issues that we should be discussing are not captured in the newspapers, are not in the news bulletins, are not there in TV excerpts. They are not there. You are the carrier of that. How do we move forward? Please do share with us. I want to hear what's happening in your society, in your locality, at your workplace, at your church, in your school, perhaps in a home that you live in. I'm keen to know about what is it that you're talking about. So that, for me, I am very much keen. Very much keen. I'm happy to open to hear from you on the open line about things that we don't discuss. It could be that at times, and we must admit this, we are out of kilter with some of the things that are happening, out of touch with things that are happening. And you're thinking, why are they talking about this? And you want to switch off. No, please don't. Rather share and say, I go to the Stockville, and this is what we are doing, and this is how we are doing it. Or no, at my work, they've introduced this very interesting thing about this, that, and the other. But also, one more thing that we'll be chatting about, CEOs. I mean, South African CEOs in the top 40 companies last year earned over 6.2 billion rands. You're talking about 40 CEOs. 6.2 billion rands. They're earning hundreds and tens of millions, these CEOs. How fair is that? I mean, you could say that it's capitalism. It's notorious for dividing worker from their colleagues and, disguising that as competition, healthy competition in the workplace, whilst it's division of, a division and lack of solidarity amongst the working class. I don't know. I really don't know. But CEOs, to be fair, they're also doing quite a lot. They are carrying the vision of the company. They must speak to the shareholders. They must speak to the board. They come under serious grilling in board meetings. So I don't know. You might feel that CEOs are earning way too much, or it's the right amount. And I know there are CEOs listening to us. No bad blood. Do call in and share with us why is it that you're earning that much, and if you deserve it. I'd love to hear from you. Let's go straight to your calls and your voice notes. Adel, it's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock, and the show has officially begun.
702
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
The Abel that I'm referring to, that I'll sometimes during the show also allude to every now and then, is the technical producer of the show. He makes sure that everything runs smoothly technically, and he's in the studio with me. And on the other side of the studio, through the window, there are two producers, Sinazo and Keta. You will interact with them when you call into the show first. They are the big chefs. They are the conductors of the orchestra, so to put it. And of course, you, the most important element of this, the main ingredient. Without you, this thing just doesn't work. You are water to our custard. We add everything else, but without you, nothing ever works. So let's go to the voice notes, Abel, that have come through to on 072 702 1702.
Yeah, good morning, Tibos. Tibos, on this metric issue, that principle is not on the money. Is not on the money. Metric is something that comes once in a person's lifetime. You know, whether you do good or bad when it comes to your academic results in high school, you will never relive the experience of a metric dance. You know. So it's rather unfair for him to deny the kids an experience of a lifetime just simply because some of the students might have been struggling to study or understand the concepts of that were taught at school. So no, it's not on the money. He needs to give the children an opportunity to go to metric dance. I heard the same thing is happening in the school in Soweto in Gongonyani. So yeah, it's not on.
Good morning, Tabo. I say big ups to that school principal. Metric dance is not a right. It's a privilege. You earn it, and those kids haven't earned that. And for me, it's the right decision. And I think as a society, we must go back to basics. It's like how you see teenagers falling pregnant and people are throwing baby showers for them. Like, what are we celebrating? We've lost a sense of what things are about. So I say up to that school principal. It's Isabella here.
Why not just let the kids go that passed and don't let the kids that didn't pass go, so that they can also then hopefully be incentivized, maybe they won't be, to pass their prelims and their finals. But why punish the kids that did pass? It's unfair. Just because the kids who failed didn't work hard enough, and the kids that did work hard, they should be allowed to go to the matric dance.
Yeah, I think maybe that would be striking the chord of some sorts if those who've passed are the only ones eligible to go to the metric dance. But also, I suppose, assessing what have you been doing as a school if you see that so many kids are failing. It can't just happen at a go. There must have been a pattern that was forming and creating itself ahead of the children failing, so many kids failing. I don't know, is it about 50% or so? Failing. And then you come with a drastic measure of them not attending a metric dance. I think it's a little bit unfair, but it could be that those, as you've suggested, those who failed should, examine themselves and not attend the metric dance. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that. Let us know. One other thing that I wanted to put to your attention as you are sending your voice notes through and calling on 011-883-0702. I'm wondering to what extent is your boss flexible and allowing you to do your work efficiently as you ought to, and not somehow disturbing your free time? We live in an era where we have WhatsApps, emails, and all sorts of communications, right? So yesterday I had lunch with a friend, and he was mentioning that his friend works for a certain billionaire in South Africa, and the friend is completely fearful, if not utterly scared of this boss of his, who is a multi-billionaire. And because apparently the billionaire, I won't say male or female so that we keep the identity as concealed as possible. So the boss apparently calls at any time of the day, at 3 o'clock in the morning when he's up, and he's an insomniac like myself. So at 2:30 he'd be up, and he'd be calling you as an employee to say, by the way, I need you in the office at 6 o'clock. Let's finish up, let's polish up on this, that, and the other. And he'd send emails, and he expects employees and the executive members to respond to those emails timelessly and at the creepiest hours of the day. And I'm thinking, is that okay? Is that perhaps what a good work ethic is about? Or is it borderline abuse or blatant exploitation? I would think it's the latter. If you have a boss like that who calls at any time and they want a response from you, even if you're not at work, you are on holiday, they just touching base, they want this report, they want this advice, how is that going to work? You know, I understand it if you work like myself and you are in the consulting space and you work for yourself, that's completely understandable. But if you've got an 8 to 5 and your boss calls after 7, they call at night, they summon you to the office when they feel like, I don't know, is that a good work ethic? I understand that you may try to preserve your job. No one wants to lose their job in this economy, and you adhere to what they're saying. At 6 o'clock you are there, and this could be at the peril of your family life, your social life, and generally your well-being and your mental well-being as well. I'm just thinking that, why is that the case? Why do some bosses do that? Is it because they don't have lives? Is it because, especially, and by the way, I'm confining this only to people who are working 8 to 5. Only those who are working 8 to 5. Freelancers like myself, if a client calls you at 3, you better wake up, because that's your company. You must make it work. And but if you work 8 to 5 and your boss does that, I don't think that's good. It could be that I know nothing about the corporate space, and you want to opine on that. Is your boss like that? Do they do that? And what do you say? And how do you even start approaching them to tell them that they shouldn't do that? Mpo, you are in Luxembourg. Morning. I hope you're well.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to be anonymous. Hi, how are you?
Oh, Batong, I am terribly sorry. It's just written Mpo here. Yeah. But to your defense, there are many Mpos out there, okay?
Yes, there are, but I think many people that know me, they will know what you're talking about.
Askis, I didn't get heads up.
No, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I just wanted, I caught the conversation halfway through, and then I just asked the producers, the guys in the background, if it's the school they're talking about is the one Yakutleksdorp, Milner, right?
Milner, yes, it is, ma'am. Milner.
It's Northwest.
Yes, it is.
I can definitely, what I'm going to say, right, and I know a lot of people will give me flack for it, like matric dance is not it's not an entitlement. I think the kids these days are so entitled, and matric dance has even lost the meaning of what it was. You know, people are turning it into, it's almost like weddings, and kids are under pressure as well. And I think it's that reward that you get at the end of the year as a matric. You know what I mean? So that we need to look forward to it, because you worked hard, because you used to know, mama, can I please have a matric farewell dance, what is a dress and stuff. Now these kids want to go in Bentleys and all of those things. And I mean, the behavior, the kids are kumona. See, the principal has tried to turn that school around, and I commend the teachers and I commend the principal. because the kids there are rowdy. I mean, there were videos that actually even circulated where these kids were fighting in class and fighting teachers. You know what I mean? So no, I definitely agree. They don't have the right. It's not their right.
Sure.
It's a privilege to have something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
No.
I was actually...
I'm happy you are, but very quickly before I go, I have about 20 seconds, but before I go quickly, do you think the same should apply to those learners who did extremely well and who are investing and asserting themselves in their work? Is it fair on them?
I think this is the unfortunate part, because even after they leave matric, this is how the world works. This is how society works that you go into. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, the rest will suffer for some of the ones that have actually kind of just contributed to the results of how this whole thing is.
Okay, I won't call you Mpo. You call him from Luxembourg. 29 minutes to 10 o'clock. Someone who won't remain anonymous is definitely Sfiso Zulu's about to give us eyewitness news headlines. Morning, welcome to the show, Sfiso.
Thanks, Tavo. Good morning. Self-proclaimed political fixer Bra Mokhotsi will return to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court for his fourth bail bid. Mokhotsi brought the application on what he says are new facts. He was arrested in May for allegedly staging his own assassination attempt. A medic who allegedly examined one of the people accused alongside alleged crime boss Musicat Matlala is expected to take the stand this morning. The medic's testimony is expected to be crucial in a trial within a trial where the defense is challenging the admissibility of evidence allegedly obtained after Musa Kekana's arrest. The state has already heard conflicting accounts from two police officers who arrested Kekana about when and where he received medical attention. And U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated his threat to hit Iran hard after the two foes traded fire for the first time in weeks. After 6 months of war, Tehran and Washington remain at an impasse, with Iran keeping the strategic Strait of Hormuz closed and the U.S. persisting with a counter-blockade of Iranian ports. On Sunday, the United States carried out strikes on Iranian island in the Strait of Hormuz, with Tehran quickly retaliating by attacking U.S. military targets in the Middle East. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Well, travelling on the N3 North, we've got some delays between the Elands interchange and the Geldenes interchange. In fact, an accident reported there in the Harriedale area. There's also an accident seen heading towards Alexandra along the N3 North, right near Modderfontein Road. It's causing delays. While travelling on the M1 South, do expect a bit of a stop-and-go situation between Marlborough Drive and Empire Road. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N1 North, that earlier accident that happened after Winnie Mandela Drive. But it's cleared, but traffic remains slow coming out of Malibongwe Drive. We'll have more updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Carlton Centre, amongst other properties owned by Transnet, will be going up for sale. And we're reflecting on what memories you have of the Carlton Centre.
My memory of Carlton Centre, about 15 years ago, I set foot in Johannesburg from Limpopo. I've never been before. The only thing I knew about Carlton Centre was from a song by Mbongeni Ngema, Stimela Sasezola.
Do you remember when last you went into Carlton Centre?
I actually go to the CBD at least once a month or once in 2 months. Don't take that long.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Planning for retirement doesn't have to be overwhelming. Join PPS on 19 September for its annual retirement summit, featuring award-winning speakers, authors, journalists, and financial experts. Whether you are under 45 and focused on wealth accumulation, or over 45 thinking about wealth preservation, there's a program for your life stage. Enjoy a meal and gain insights for your financial future. 2 generations, 1 shared goal. Greater financial freedom at only 150 Rand per person. Book now at pps.co.za/retirement summit. PPS. Success is better shared. PPS is a licensed life insurer, controlling company, and authorized FSP.
We're giving you millions of reasons to celebrate with our selection of Lucky Millions Lotto draws. You could claim major jackpots when you pick numbers from thousands of daily draws. Choose numbers on UK 49s, Euro Millions, and lots more from just 5 Rand per line. Enjoy more chances and more ways to win, all in one place. Grab your chance to celebrate extraordinary riches when you play Lucky Millions from Hollywood Bets. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counseling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
Running a small business means every rand counts. Thanks to My Way Business Insurance, I save up to 20% on my insurance premiums every month for my buckies and tools of trade. Now I get to save some extra cash for my business and focus on giving my clients world-class service.
Switch to My Way Business Insurance and save up to 20% on your buckies and tools of trade. Real businesses, real savings. Call us on 0860 646464 for a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. Standard rates and T's and C's apply.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
702 indeed. Clement is not here. My name is Thabo Sholemashao. I'm happy to be in your company. We're together till 12. Great having you with us. If you've just joined us, welcome. Where have you been? I did apologize about my croaky voice earlier on if you've just joined us. So pardon me one more time. Welcome again. If you didn't hear what we were discussing earlier, we're touching on the principal in Milne Northwest. He has decided to cancel the metric dance of pupils in that particular high school. He insists that they did not do well in their June examinations. We call them June examinations. I'm old school like that, but the right term would be term 2 examinations. And he says that they didn't do well, so they don't deserve a metric ball or metric dance, if you will. So, and the school is up in arms. And one of the arguments is that what about the kids who did well, who applied themselves in this work, who really produced good results? Why should they be punished with the rest of everyone else? But a wonderful listener earlier on mentioned that, listen, this is a metric dance. It's just like a wedding. No one is entitled to it. We don't have a birthright to metric dance. And it's not covered in the Bill of Rights under the Constitution. So we shouldn't make a big deal of that. If the principal decides that there's no metric dance, that should be just that. It's a good lesson for those who are in grade 11 now. They'll know that if they want a metric dance, they should do very well. That's one. Another thing I asked you earlier on, at your work, I mean, when do you stop working? When you get home, is your laptop put away, or do you still get WhatsApp messages from the office and they need this? And do you have a boss who calls you at 3 in the morning, at 4:30 and says, let's meet at the office at 6? I'm talking about 9 to 5 individuals in this instance, because I know that there are people who are working around the clock. I'm not oblivious to that, but I'm talking strictly about those who are confined to office hours work. Do you get calls? How do you deal with that, where your boss decides that they will ask for a report at 4 in the morning and ask to meet you at 7:10 because they'll be in the office at 7:10, whilst you ought to start work at 9? Without compromising yourself? Or is it just a good work ethic? Are you being a professional when you are doing as they say, or are you being a walkover? Let us know on 011-883-0702, 22 minutes to 10 o'clock.
702.
Let's walk the talk on 92.7
and 106 FM.
Reverend Mohomotsi Diutlwileng is calling us from Centurion. Reverend, good morning.
Good morning, Thabo, and to all your listeners. Thabo, I am 100% with the principal on this one. We cannot, as a nation, raise a generation of entitled, spoiled brats who must have fun throughout life without no discipline, without really no consequences for their ill discipline. Indeed, as somebody said, this is a privilege and not a right. The primary reason we take children to school is for them to do well academically and advance in life. Metric dance is a party. They have too much fun already. And now we're treating this whole thing as if they didn't have it, then they will have some dysfunctionality or emotional or psychological deficiency because they did not have a party. I mean, teachers and the principal, they have already lost the corporal punishment, a decision I have support, by the way. But they have got no means of disciplining our spoiled brats. The only thing that they have at their disposal without them exposing themselves to legal consequences is to deny them privileges that they want. So if these children wanted this party so much, they should have really worked hard and know that we want to have that. And you cannot take this away from the principal. This is a means of disciplining. Otherwise, we have just spoiled brats that are ill-disciplined, and we are setting our nation for a failure with people who have got no discipline, no backbone.
Sure. Reverend, what do you say about incentives? What do you say about motivation and inspiration to those who are doing well? What do you say about putting people in one basket and judging them as a collective as opposed to individuals?
We have other ways of rewarding those who are doing well.
Like what?
Recognition and school. We can find other ways, creative ways of incentivizing these children. The metric dance is not the only recognition they could be having, all right? And you could also separate this whole thing to say, for instance, those who have done well or are doing well, we incentivize you by allowing you to do this party. But those who are not doing well, you separate the sheep from the goat, literally. And you incentivize them. Those who want to join the party must work hard and know that they deserve and earn that thing. But we cannot just leave our children ill-disciplined and undisciplined like this.
Thank you so much, Reverend Mohomotsi Dutuleng in Centurion. 18 minutes to 10 o'clock. Feel free to send those voice notes to 072 702 1702.
Morning, Tabo. The fact that Eskom was able to make a profit, it just proves that all it needed was good management. So this whole thing about unbundling it is just a fuss that's meant to benefit the private sector, and I disagree with that. Unconditionally, it must not be privatized at any capacity. And on top of that, since they made a profit, they must write off some of the debt that is owed to Eskom, especially for the most unviable municipalities that they are still billing. Thank you. This is KG from Ekurhuleni.
Good morning, good morning, Tabo. Good morning, everybody. And it's a simple one. Right now, there is also another big one about the post bank and the SASSA people changing the cards and whatever. Nobody talks about the fraud that happens inside post bank with the post bank people taking people's monies. They have taken 11,000 of my own mother's. She is 90 years. This swapping of the cards, they clone cards, and the money has been taken from Soweto, KZN, wherever. The poor grandmother is sitting in the house. They don't know how to fill all those complicated forms. Post Bank is just not doing it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge to us that one day we must host a show on SASSA, just on SASSA, for an hour or so, and get to hear the FAQs on SASSA, but also the complaints about it, and everyone else involved in that ecosystem, because there's quite a lot. When you walk around in the townships, when you hear people's stories, the anecdotes are heartbreaking when individuals share their encounters, especially the old, the vulnerable, the poor, those in the periphery of the economy, and those who are highly dependent on the social grant system. They are telling some sordid stories. We must at some point maybe open the lines and get to to hear that and bring SASSA on board and everyone else and get them to account. And that's a very important one. We, at times, I think the most vulnerable in this country are getting the short end of the stick as far as ventilation of their issues. We dismiss them often as other issues unless, except for those few exceptions where the media puts a huge spotlight on them, and not for purposes of being newsworthy or value of the news cycle, but out of dignity of individuals, out of dignity of people who are South Africans, who ought to be heard. 15 minutes to 10 o'clock.
Local government elections aren't about politics. They're about the roads you drive every day, the water you need, the electricity you rely on, the rates you pay, the services you deserve. You see, local government isn't somewhere else. It's your neighborhood, your street, your home. So in the run-up to the local government elections, 702, Cape Talk, and EWN will be where the issues that matter to you are put in the spotlight, where the tough questions are asked, where the crucial conversations begin. Because this is more than local. It's personal. Follow every moment of the local government election on 702, Cape Talk, and EWN.co.za. Download the EWN app.
Big game for Alan, balancing the day-to-day, looking after his family while still planning ahead. Good thing he's with FNB Private. Service suite backing him on and off the field 24/7. His banking advisor keeps the day-to-day moving. When the game needs strategy, his private advisor steps in. And when things get more complex, the right specialists come off the bench. Everyone in position.
Switch to FNB Private. FNB. Help changes everything. FNB is a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP. T's and C's apply.
Need a last-minute gift? Checker 6060 will bring the toy aisle to you. Hot Wheels bands and Lego trends. Let's go 6060. Marvel minis and other figurines. Let's go 6060. All the Barbies and the plushies. Let's go 6060. Fisher Price and all things nice. Let's go 6060. Whatever they love, whatever their age, Checker 6060 will deliver today. Let's go 6060.
Humans protect some very important things. The phone with more cracks than the family WhatsApp group. The car that desperately needs a wash. But what about the things that pays for all of them? Your ability to work, earn, and maintain your lifestyle. Life can change quickly. That's why Liberty and 702 are having a conversation about protecting your lifestyle. This Wednesday on the Clement Manyathela Show, a Liberty expert answers your questions in Liberty Lifestyle Protection Conversations. WhatsApp 072-702-1702 with the keyword Liberty Protection. Humans who hope for the best but plan for the worst, welcome. Liberty, in it with you on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
702 indeed. Your voice notes 072-702-1702. Earlier on, we had, I think it was KG, I'm not too sure, but I concur with your sentiments in that voice note. If then Eskom is to be unbundled as it is right now, and that is some efforts at privatizing the entity which has been battling for quite some time, it ought to be fair subsequently that whatever was owed has to be reviewed. I think if the structure changes, that debt book should be looked into differently as well. What do you do with that debt? Because now it's a different structure. I agree with that. It could be that I'm just empathetic to the poor. My sympathy is with those who are less fortunate, and I know this will rub the people who don't subscribe to that ideology in a wrong way, and they will call me a socialist or a communist. That's fine. I prefer it that way. I think there's an argument to be made for that, for the debt to be looked into, and in order for people to reset themselves and start again. And that is not to say people shouldn't pay for what they are getting, their services. That is, I'm not saying that at all. Please don't misconstrue my sentiments in this instance. The caller, the voice note was suggesting that if and as Eskom has been unbundled, it should follow that the debt is looked into of those who owe Eskom. It should be looked into. And, Also, privatization seems to suggest one thing. Again, here's another unpopular view that will make me fight with you in one way or the other. Private sector does not equal non-corrupt. It doesn't. We seem to have that misplaced idea in South Africa that if it's government, it's corrupt. If it's private sector, it's efficient, it's brilliant, it's amazing, it's first class. No, it doesn't. There are many private entities that are riddled in serious allegations of corruption, activities of malfeasance, and doings that are untoward. There are many. It's just that we do not reflect on them as we ought to. More attention is given to government, rightly so, because it's mainly perceived to be a public purse. But the private sector does not deserve to be canonized. It does not have a halo above its head. It's not clothed in white and carries wings on their backs. No, the private sector also has some dirty hands. We can give examples, but I won't, because I don't have money for lawsuits that may follow. 9 minutes to 10 o'clock. 011-883-0702 702 072 702 1702.
Well, first of all, Tabo, hi. Because you're working for a billionaire, money don't sleep. Money does not sleep. So the best thing that you can do is to be able to work according to those hours that the boss is requiring you to input, because that's the only way you can be able to earn what you earn, but also be able to remain competent at what you do. So it's either it's your passion to do this, or you jump ship and let someone else do it. Clearly, if you are complaining about it, you shouldn't be working with a billionaire. That's my opinion. Thanks, Tabo.
Yeah.
Wow, that CEO is quite ridiculous. Wow. You should look into hiring people in other countries who are awake at that time, because no way. There is absolutely no way I'd be up at 2 a.m. to respond or answer to a work call. When do you sleep? When do we rest? When do I live my life? Thanks, Lee Centurion.
Good morning, Tabo. This business of bosses calling people at any and every hour, morning, night, it's just abuse. It's not borderline abuse. It is abuse. And just because there's a shortage of jobs, these poor young people have to respond to emails, voice notes, all sorts of things at the most ridiculous hours. It is totally out of order. And I actually think something must be done about it. Some of these young people are burnt out. Burnt out.
Yeah.
This is Hazel.
Thanks, Hazel. And Ntodomzi was saying that money doesn't sleep. You and I subscribe to this same school of thought. I would agree with you, Ntodomzi, on that issue. I think if you are serious about what you do, you have to take it seriously. There's no chaile time. And that is not to say you don't have a personal life, but if the project demands of you at that particular point, not always, of course, you have to rest, you'll get burnout and it's not going to be nice, fatigue and everything else. But I'm just saying, when you are demanded by circumstances of your work, productivity, to show up in a big way, I think you should. I think you should kick the blankets and jump out of bed and rise up and go. Not always, but when you are required to, at that point you should. I think it's only fair, especially if you are as invested in that work as those who've employed you are. I think it's fair, but that is not to say I'm encouraging abuse. You must have your own off time and chilling sessions and having a nice drink and doing all of that. But if it needs be, please, I think it's only fair to show up. I'd love to hear from you. YouTube messages, I've been neglecting them. Apologies. Let me go straight to some of them. This one says, this comes from KM. G6J says, dinners can be held for the matriculants. These dances have become westernized and financially draining. Another YouTube message. Lover of South Africa says, one is only allowed to do full metric once in their lifetime. One metric dance or one full metric in their lifetime. As a principal, I must consider whether I want to scar a generation. Powerful. Let me know on 011-883-0702. By the way, we are also on YouTube Live, as you've heard me read out some of your messages that came on YouTube. You can check us out on YouTube. I get into trouble with YouTube because some people think I'm moving around too much. But you see, I'm a radio guy, not a TV guy, so I fall short of that ethical behavior that's required for in front of camera people. But keep your calls on 011-883-072702-1702. We'll go straight to your voice notes in a short while. Abel, let's go to them.
Gentlemen, just with regards to Eskom, since 2008, electricity prices in South Africa has gone up by more than 10 times. So having sympathy for the poor, you might want to consider privatization, because what we currently have is no good for the poor. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, but I'm afraid privatization would mean that the responsibility is towards the shareholders and the bottom line more than anything else. So unless there's serious competition of lowering costs, then we have a big battle ahead of us. And that is not to say the costs right now are reasonable. I don't know what your electricity costs, but I personally, and this is just a personal view, I think we are being ripped off. I mean, the speculation on it month on month. There was a time where I owed over 12,000 rands for 1 month. I did not know how it came about. And when I went to complain about it in 1 month, they just said, oh, pay first, and then we'll look into this issue. And it took them 8 months to look into it. At that time, things had accumulated so much that it was not even worth getting my money back. I had to throw it back in. Municipalities, Mogale City, no, you are killing us. And you can't have a conversation with them. Firstly, it takes 2 years to queue up at that office. And secondly, the person is going to refer it somewhere, and it's going to take another 4 months before, guys, no, please. I don't know about your costs. Maybe your costs are better. Do share with me. I've tried to find out how they calculate costs. Sometimes it's 2,000 rands, sometimes it's 12,000 rands. I think some bit of consistency would help. But let us know on 011-883-0702. 2 minutes to 10 o'clock.
You hear that? That's the sound of business execution finally visible. No more chasing people and reports. No more disconnected systems. No more guessing if our business is performing or not. iStratGo connects strategy, people, performance, and day-to-day work into one clear software platform, so leaders can see what's working, what's not, and where to focus. Because when execution is visible, everything runs better. Book a demo on iStratGo.com. ITRATG.
Joe Bird, Pretoria. This is Mr. Scott, and I am coming to see you.
Join three-time Grammy Award winner Jill Scott for her To Whom This May Concern tour, performing classics like Golden, The Way, and new hits Pressure, Beautiful People, and more. 7 November at the Sunbet Arena, Times Square. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za. Jill Scott, in association with Showtime Management at 702.
Owner, before you downgrade your sterilization equipment to save money, rather switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. You could get a mass 20% discount on business insurance premium for general medical practices, physiotherapists, dentists, and all other businesses. Switch to Outsurance Business Insurance could mean more cash for your business. Ready, switch and save? Get a quote today. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60,000. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
Every promise, every word. Follow every moment of the local government elections on 702 Cape Talk and EWN www.ecd.co.za.
It's exact 10 o'clock time for Eyewitness.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Retired Hawks head Godfrey Libia is back at the Madlanga Commission for cross-examination. Libia is accused of deploying Hawks officers to interfere in a police operation to arrest murder-accused businessman Katiso Molefe in December 2024. During his last appearance at the inquiry, Libia claimed he acted on a call from a concerned civilian known as Malcolm X to verify reports that Hawks impersonators were conducting the raid.
I do not know Mr. Katiso Molefe. I was not contacted by Mr. Katiso Molefe. I was contacted by Malcolm X. I directed 2 senior managers to verify the allegations of persons who were said to be claiming to be members of the DPCI and to have been sent by me.
His testimony continues. Self-proclaimed political fixer Brian Mokgotsi will return to the Johannesburg Magistrates Court for his 4th bail bid. Mokgotsi brought the application on what he says are new facts. He was arrested in May for allegedly staging his own assassination attempt. His bail has been denied 3 times, with the state opposing his release for several reasons, including allegedly lying about his residential address. Last week, investigators told the court that Mokgotsi was planning to escape from police custody. A medic who allegedly examined one of the people accused alongside alleged crime boss Vusmuzi Matlala is expected to take the stand today. The medic's testimony is expected to be crucial in a trial within a trial where the defense is challenging the admissibility of evidence allegedly obtained after Musa Kekana's arrest. The state has already heard conflicting accounts from 2 police officers who arrested Kekana about when and where he received medical attention. Matlala, Kekana and 2 others face a combined 25 charges, including 11 counts of attempted murder, conspiracy to murder and defeating the ends of justice. Demakaso Leshuru has more.
Today's witness will be the 5th to testify in a trial within a trial which centers on the events of 17 April 2024, the day Musa Kekana was arrested. Kekana was admitted to hospital a month before his arrest after ingesting cocaine and alcohol. He was also diagnosed with tuberculosis and pneumonia and was reportedly coughing up blood. One officer told the court an ambulance was called for Kekana while at his house where a search and seizure was conducted without a warrant, while the other said Kekana was attended by medics at the scene of his arrest a few kilometers from his house. Kekana has alleged an ambulance was called where he was arrested after he was assaulted and suffocated at his house and started coughing up blood. Yesterday, a doctor who attended Kekana when he was later taken to hospital says Kekana told her he was assaulted at a police station, but police have denied assaulting him. Dimakato Leshoro, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg High Court.
A makeshift bridge at a village in Limpopo helping residents to access healthcare services has caved in again. It was swept away by heavy rains a month after EWN reported on the desperate situation. The residents of Mafarafara village in Begersford have once more been cut off from nearby clinics. Resident Calvin Siroka explains to EWN what happened.
On Sunday it was raining and the river was full, took the bridge that connect Mafarafara and Taung.
And U.S. President Donald Trump has repeated his threat to hit Iran hard after the 2 foes traded fire for the first time in weeks. After 6 months of war, Tehran and Washington remain at an impasse, with Iran keeping the strategic Strait of Hormuz closed and the U.S. persisting with a counter-blockade of Iranian ports. On Sunday, the United States carried out strikes on an Iranian island in the Strait of Hormuz, with Tehran quickly retaliating by attacking U.S. military targets in the Middle East. The exchange has raised fears of a return to major hostilities, with the U.S. president vowing to respond.
Their leaders are largely dead. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their surveillance equipment is almost entirely gone. That doesn't mean we won't smack them. We'll see what happens. But we have the Strait of Hormuz in extremely good shape. You know, we're taking over.
Gold is trading at $4,434.42 an ounce. The rand is at 16.12 to the dollar, 21.83 to the pound, 18.70 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $91.15 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N3 North between the Kidulis Interchange and Modderfontein Road due to an accident. There's also queuing traffic in Boksburg along the N17 West between Osborne Road and Wits Rifles Road. That's due to roadworks.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: retired Hawks head Godfrey Lebeya is back at the Madlanga Commission today for cross-examination.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Six minutes after 10 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. Thabo Sholemashao is my name. Clem is not here. We're together till 12. Great having you with us. I thoroughly enjoyed your interactions in the previous hour between 9 and 10 on the open line. We spoke about the matric dancers. We spoke about bosses that are demanding you to work extra hours beyond the call of duty, and your contributions were just out of this world. As threatened before, we will go straight to Madlanga Commission in a short while, and looking at what took place in the past few days. You'd remember the dramatic testimony of Hawks Colonel Dina Govender at Madlanga Commission. On one hand, he was under the microscope, failing to clearly explain how millions of rands landed in his account. Remember that one? I mean, 10,000 rands. How many of those were there? About 37 or so. But in the exact same breath, he drops a bombshell claiming that he was pressured by the former police minister to falsely accuse KZN top cop General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, throw him under the bus. This leaves us as a public in a massive, massive knot. Is this genuine whistleblower exposing dirty political game, or is it classic smokescreen to distract all of us from unexplained wealth? Well, you are the big judge in this one. You'd remember that Major General Khan was supposed to appear this morning. It then turns out that his lawyers might have wanted to communicate with the commission to ask for another postponement. Is this, again, truancy, another excuse not to appear before the commission? Is he playing games like one individual who has been playing games? Or is this really, really genuine? I don't know about that. General Khan was supposed to appear before Madlanga Commission, but right now is Dr. Lebeya, who is the former head of the Hawks, who is going through a statement. And there were 4 names that were tabled to approve appointment, and that's how he got this information. Without any further ado, Abel, perhaps let's take it straight from the horse's mouth.
16. Do you have it? Page 16?
Yes.
A question was posed to General Sonona by the Commission. Question 2.6, which DPCI and or SAPS officers did you inform about the storage of the seized drugs at the DPCI Jefferson offices before they were stolen on 8 November 21? And his response: I informed my supervisor at the time, Lieutenant General Lebeya, regarding the storage of the exhibits at the Port Shepstone offices. And then he also quotes from the transcript of his evidence that he gave on the 27th of January 2026. And in the last sentence, he says again, he's repeating what he said in his statement. Due to the above, I agreed that the exhibits to be stored at the Port Shepstone offices, and then I have informed my supervisor at that stage, Lieutenant General Labia, about the incident and the storage. Now, that is obviously inconsistent with your evidence that you only became aware of it, that the drugs were being stored at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices when they were stolen. Do you want to comment on that? Because it's either that General Sonona is lying, or you're lying, or you're both mistaken about what transpired.
Yeah, I can't say that he is lying. And then I can't recall him informing me as to where he has stored the drugs. So that is the view that I had, that he did not inform me.
Well, I think it is significant because it's a big bust. You agree that 541 kilograms of cocaine is considered a big bust by the DPCI.
I agree, and I always expect that they will store them in the provinces where it is necessary for them to be stored. So it is not my responsibility at the head office for the storage.
No, I accept that it's not your responsibility, but if it's not stored where it's supposed to be stored, either at FSL or at a police station, until FSL takes the drugs and processes them either for analysis and then for destruction, that if it is going to be kept at the DPCI offices, that it is a significant departure from the protocol. And so therefore, if he would reasonably inform you that that is what the decision that he'd been taken, even if it was just to inform you, not to ask for your permission.
It is possible that he may have informed me. As I say, it is the responsibility of the operational units to store the exhibits where they are supposed to be stored. And I think in that place where when after the theft, it was not the first time to store the exhibits there.
Okay, so are you saying you were aware that exhibits had been previously stored at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices?
When I was reading now the reports, I came to understand that there were exhibits that were stored there.
Dr. Libya, does that mean that when the bust happened, you were not informed about it? It's a matter that you knew nothing about until there was a theft?
I knew about the bust, Commissioner.
So and you knew how? How do you become aware of it?
The provincial head shall have informed me.
Yeah, but when he informs you, what does he say? Does he just say, we did a bust today? Surely he gives you detail about what happened on that day. What kind of detail does he give you?
He will indicate the units that were involved and the quantity, the approximate quantity of the drugs that have been seized, whether there is any arrest or not. That is the information that he will share.
Does he not tell you? So let's assume that he did tell you on the day. So it's not, you don't hear for the first time about this when there is a break-in. You knew on the day itself that there was a bust. You knew who was involved with the bust. You knew the quantity. That's what you've said. Can we accept that as fact? That's what happened on the day.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Yes. But then you're saying he wouldn't tell you, and he didn't tell you, that we actually have stored this at our DPCI offices. Are you saying he didn't tell you that?
That is where I can't recollect properly, but because I can't recollect, I take it that he did not tell me about the place where the drugs are being stored.
Would you not have expected, considering that these are not kept at the station, at the police station, they are kept at your DPCI offices, would you not have expected him to tell you that, to mention that to you, that we didn't find space, which I assume would have been what he reports to you, that we tried to store or to find storage in the police station and other places, and we didn't, and we've kept them in our safe as a result. Are you saying he didn't tell you that?
That is what I can't recollect that he told me, because I expect them that they must store the drugs.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
It's either at the station or directly to the forensic science laboratory or wherever it is safe for the drugs to be stored.
Yes, I accept and I take it as a given that you expect that they would store them. I think all of us expect that they would have stored them somewhere. The question really is, these drugs are stored at your offices, at DPCI offices, which is not the usual, normal places where exhibits are put. At least that's the evidence we've had. Ordinarily, they should either have been at the police station, in the exhibit room, because you did not have an exhibit room. So they would have been in an exhibit room at a police station. Alternatively, they should have been taken to the forensic lab. They did not land there on either of the two because they were told there's no storage. That's how they end up at your DPCI offices. So my question to you is direct in that way, that would you not have expected that General Sinona would tell you that we have had to keep them, or we are having to keep them in the DPCI offices because we couldn't find storage at the lab or the police station? Isn't that something that you would expect him to tell you?
Yeah. After the theft, now you become to think, maybe I should have expected that to be the case. But at the time when these things were happening, you just take it that it is happening in the normal course. They know how to handle the drugs after seizure.
I'm asking a different question. Would you, given where these drugs are stored now, where we now know they were stored, which is not in an exhibit room, which is at the DPCI offices, my question is, would you not have expected at the time when he told you about the bust, would you not have expected him to tell you that, Chief, we're storing these drugs in our office because we don't have any other storage? Isn't that something that you would expect him to do?
I would have expected him to do, Commissioner.
Yes. Now, you don't remember whether he told you or not. He's quite firm, he's repeated it more than once, that he had the conversation with you, he told you. Isn't the probability, especially because you would have expected him to tell you, isn't the probability, or fair to put to you, that the probability is he did tell you? You may not remember it, but probabilities are he would have told you on the day, because this is an anomaly that is happening. He reports to you about the events of the day, and he insists twice, and in his statement and in his oral testimony, that he did inform you. Isn't the probability that he did tell you on the day, or he may have told you?
It is probable, Commissioners.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Ms. Siggins.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. And assuming that he did tell you, you would have known that it was not being kept or stored in accordance with the national instruction and the protocol for handling and storing exhibits, correct?
No, it shall have still been in line with the storage requirements.
Why do you say so?
If the exhibits can be kept at a unit level,
A unit level is what? DPCI officers?
Yeah, like DPCI, Potchefstroom, organized crime offices in Potchefstroom is a unit.
Okay, but you were at that stage aware of the security breaches and the inadequate security measures at the Port Shepstone DPCI offices?
Not to the extent that the drugs can be stolen. The challenge of security in the DPCI offices was all over nationally. All the offices were the same.
Well, I just want to explore what you say about not to the level that drugs could be stolen. Of course, you only find that out after the drugs are stolen. But you were aware that there were major security inefficiencies at DPCI offices in general, and specifically on the Port Shepstone one.
I was aware that there were breaches, but none of them were to the walk-in safe. I was not aware that there is any breach to the walk-in safe.
What were you aware of? Were you aware of, for example, that there wasn't a proper alarm system in place?
That one I was not aware. Those nitty-gritties were not reported, that the alarm system were not working.
Those would have been reported at what level? Because I accept that you are the national head, so at what level would that be reported?
Because those will have to deal with supply chain processes. It means that it will be reported in the province, and should it require head office, they will escalate it to supply chain at the DPCI head office.
And are you saying that it was never escalated prior to the theft to the national office?
I do not recollect that it was ever tabled before me. It is possible that it may have been channeled through to head office, the supply chain route. I do not recollect that there was anything tabled before me that there is this burglary at Port Shepstone.
When you say burglary, you're referring to prior to the theft?
Yes, the breaches that shall have occurred.
But you found out about that after the fact, after the theft?
Yeah, with the report coming from General Msigili.
Okay. Now, if you have the discussion with General Sonona at the time that the drugs are going to be stored at Port Shepstone, and you say that you don't recall, at best you don't recall that he had that discussion with you, but you would have assumed that he would have ensured that the premises are safe or secure in order for the drugs to be stored there, and you would have expected it to have been temporarily so, that it would be stored temporarily so.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And at any point in time, did General Sonona or anyone else from the provincial office request your intervention in order to fast-track the transfer of the drugs to FSL?
No.
And if you did know that the drugs were being stored at Port Shepstone, which I think, as Commissioner Baloy says, it's more probable that you were aware of it, that General Sonona did tell you, would it not have been reasonable in those circumstances for you to, as the head of DPCI, make a special request that one of your biggest drug busts for FSL to fast-track or expedite their processes so that the drugs could go to FSL?
If I was so requested,
No, but I think it's more than just so requested, is that as the national head, for you to have taken that decision, that proactive decision, to say this is one of our biggest drug busts. The value of the cocaine, I think, was at 200, street value was at 200 million. It's being kept at DPCI offices, which even if you're not aware of prior thefts, you are aware of the inadequate security and safety measures at DPCI offices generally, is for you to have then contacted the head of FSL to say, can you expedite the transfer of these drugs? Because we understood that that is an avenue that could have been, that was available to you, even to General Sonona as the provincial head, to make such a request to FSL.
The fact that they were stored in a walk-in safe, one would believe that they are safe.
Yes, I accept that you would believe that they are safe, but they're not supposed to be kept there. And you are aware of the safety issues and the security shortcomings. My question is, why did you not, as the head of the national head, make that request? Because I think you do accept that it was a significant drug bust for the DPCI.
As I indicated, it is one of the storage facilities. They can be stored there. Exhibits can be stored there.
Okay. Now, can I then ask you, insofar as your involvement in the investigation of the theft? Now, we know that the theft has occurred sometime between 5 and 8 November 2021. The drugs were seized in June. So when the drugs get stolen between 5 and 8 November 2021, what is your involvement from the time that you are informed of the theft?
Immediately after I was informed of the theft, I directed 2 investigations. The first was a fact-finding process by the Deputy National Head to go to the province and go and find the facts. On the other side, I appoint the component head, Major General Kana of Serious Organized Crime, to investigate the theft, the disappearance. That is the criminal part of the disappearance. So that is my involvement, assigning the responsible officials to look at the theft that has occurred.
Okay, so the second investigation, which is the component head, General Kana, that is CAS 129/11/2021. That's the criminal investigation. I'll take you to it later, and then can I ask you about the fact-finding investigation that you're referring to, that you mandated General Mosikidi to undertake? What was the purpose behind the fact-finding if there was going to be a criminal investigation as well?
Yeah, the fact-finding is whenever there is a serious crime that has been committed, you expect a senior officer to at least visit that scene and go and find the nitty-gritties of the facts, so that when that person come and report back, at least you have got the background. So that is the fact-finding assignment, is visiting the scene and finding the fact.
And this you do in November of 2021, immediately after the theft?
Yeah, on the day that we were informed about the theft.
And General Sonona informs you about the theft?
That is correct, Commissioners.
And what does he tell you in that discussion about the theft? What are the details that he gives you at that stage?
He informs me that there has been a burglary at the Potchefstroom office where the drugs were stored and that the drugs were stolen.
And does he tell you that it was stolen from one of the strong rooms? Does he tell you describe the scene, tell you what his initial impression is of it?
Yes, he indicates that from the strong room, and that the strong room has been grinded open.
Okay, can I then ask you, because we're going to go through the chronology just so that I can get an understanding of what you knew and at what stage, there is another file, it's a Port Shepstone exhibit file, CJC 232. If somebody can just assist you with CJC 232 from the Port Shepstone file. In file 1. And if I could ask you to go to page 91.
Page?
91. It is the information note from General Mosikidi to you.
Running a bit late for Eyewitness News headlines as we were dipping into the commission. And on the stand, Dr. Godfrey Lebeya, the former head of the Hawks. 29 minutes to 11 o'clock. Sfiso Zulu standing by with Eyewitness News headlines. Morning, Sfiso.
Thanks, Thabo. Good morning. The Madlanga Commission is yet to deal with an application requesting a postponement for the appearance of suspended head crime intelligence deputy Feroz Khan. His legal team arrived late this morning. Khan was expected to appear today, but was reportedly hospitalized since the weekend. In the meantime, former Hawks head Godfrey Lebeya is back and continues to be cross-examined. A medic who allegedly examined one of the people accused alongside alleged crime boss Vusmuziket Matlala is expected to take the stand in the court this morning. The medic's testimony is expected to be crucial in a trial within a trial where the defense is challenging the admissibility of evidence allegedly obtained after Musa Kekana's arrest. The state has already heard conflicting accounts from two police officers who arrested Kekana about when and where he received medical attention. And Russia has launched drones and ballistic missiles at Kyiv and its surrounding region overnight, killing at least 12 people and wounding 21. The Ukrainian government says the capital was hit today as children were set to return to school after the summer. Moscow has intensified its strikes on Kyiv more than 4.5 years into its invasion, with U.S. brokered talks frozen and the Kremlin not dropping its demands to end the war. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While travelling in Boksburg, we still have got delays on the N17 West between Osborne Road and Wits Rifles Road. Roadworks are causing those delays. Please be on the lookout there. There's more roadworks taking place in Devlin along the Golden Highway between Union Avenue and East Street, while heading towards Amalgam, queuing traffic on the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. If you're traveling towards the Gilulis Interchange via the N3 North, do expect delays coming out of Van Buren Road. Roadworks are causing those issues there. And then we still have got that accident on the N3 North just as you approach Modderfontein Road. Delays from Linksfield Road. More updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Whether you're climbing the career ladder or gearing up for retirement, proper financial planning is always always key and critical. And the Professional Provident Society Retirement Summit happening on the 19th of September is designed to help ease anxiety around retirement and get you on the road to financial freedom, no matter your life stage. And it's back now, for its 6th edition. The PPS Retirement Summit will feature keynote speakers such as author and business speaker Bruce Whitfield, as well as financial expert Mapalo Maku. You'll also get to join stimulating panel discussions for under 45s and over 45s that address wealth accumulation, wealth preservation, and the different generational needs associated with each. So secure your future by securing your seat at pps.co.za/retirement summit now. Registration costs only 150 Rand per person, which is donated to the PPS Foundation in aid of developing education in South Africa. The Professional Provident Society Retirement Summit, Saturday, 19 September. Remember, Saturday, 19 September at NH Centon.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand from one of our leading vision enhancements. Climate Eyes, which automatically adapts to changing light. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Success doesn't wait. It doesn't copy. It doesn't ask permission. It moves. Powered by 125 kilowatts of turbocharged performance, 270 Newton meters of torque, and a 7-speed DCT transmission. Designed with electrically adjustable front seats, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and an 8-speaker Sony sound system. The new Jetour Dashing. Success looks different from 429,900. Get behind the wheel today.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Why is it that sugar is being imported at a lower price than the sugar we produce here?
It's an historic thing. Every country that produces sugar has a regulation in place, and the playing field isn't level. So some countries like Brazil have an ethanol regime as well as a sugar regime, and that allows them to earn money from ethanol and sugar, and they can switch between the two, as prices vary.
Dr. Thomas Funke is the CEO at SA Cane Growers.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking. Across West Africa, Genza Energy is strengthening reliable energy supply with more than 334 megawatts of installed generation capacity, while building the infrastructure needed for future growth. Through a EU 456 million Rand financing facility, ABSA CIB is proud to support Genza's progress. That's how we're invested in your story. ABSA is a registered FSP.
Your neighborhood, your street, your home. Your local government election coverage lives on 702 Cape Talk and EWN.co.za. Download the EWN app.
The Clement Manyathela Show is in conversation with Salga, inspiring service delivery, 23 minutes to 11 o'clock. Welcome back. My name is Thabo Sholamashao. Clem is not here. I'm in his stead. I'm hoping that we'll be good to each other for the next while, at least until 12 o'clock. And I don't move furniture. Even when I come to Clem's show, I keep things just the way they are. And the feature that you would know very, very well is this feature. I know that it gets to you. It is about municipalities. And the question that we'd want to find out today is, what does it take to fix a municipality? What does it really take to fix a municipality? Well, it definitely cannot be fixed by repairing one pothole, replacing one official, or even announcing another turnaround plan. And lasting recoveries require stable leadership, sound finances, capable administration, and the trust of the community, which is central to fixing a municipality. So why do some municipalities recover, do well, succeed, and others, they continue to decline? and they are on a downward spiral. Well, joining us to explore what a real municipal turnaround requires is Mr. Stole Mbanga, who's CEO of a South African Local Government Association. Sir, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome to 702. Good morning.
Good morning, Thabo. How are you?
I'm free. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Happy you are.
I'm glad you came to the studio because the conversation is more, at least for me, more meaningful and especially on this very important subject. Let's go straight to it. What does municipality leadership look like under pressure? Because I feel like a number of municipalities are under pressure right now.
Okay. It looks like the leadership that you see in local government today. Municipalities, for me, are effectively sandwiched.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to speak into the mic. Thank you, sir.
Between a rock and a very hard place. And that's the type of pressure that they have. So there are good things that are happening in municipalities, but there's also bad things that are happening in municipalities. It gets worse when there are ugly things. So municipal government at the moment is in that rock and the hard place. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, like that famous movie. But when is failure political? Because at times the municipality is embroiled in this ecosystem of political, administrative, and structural. But when is failure political or structural or administrative?
So, and I suspect this is in any institution that is led, irrespective whether that leadership is politically elected or it is elected by its own members. At the end of the day, the role of politicians or the political leadership in a municipality has to focus on policy. It has to focus on the vision. Where are we taking this institution called the municipality? What are its objectives? What sort of intended outcomes does it put in place so that it can, over a long period of time, understand that it is on the correct path? And if it reverses from that, then you know that you are not on a sound foundation. So if political leadership is able to do that, it implies then that those that are in the administration have to implement what the policy says. And so you cannot be seen to be crossing the line. There has to be a gap, however thin the gap is between political leadership and administrative leadership. And unfortunately, in our context, the South African context, we have seen and experienced a lot of political administrative tension, and in certain instances, competition for space, and that has not been good. And that's what you mean by political failure. It's the inability of those that have the responsibility for policy decision not to be able to separate themselves from the administrative role, and in certain instances, vice versa, where those that are in the administrative role think that they are politicians.
And that would make for a remarkable interaction between the two, because in our system, we are electing individuals to go into council. And whilst they're in council, they interact with administrators. And there could be a cross-pollination there along the corridors, but more importantly, in political party headquarters. And the question that I have for you, what are the critical characteristics of a failed municipality? How do we know now that this has failed?
When you start to see characteristics of service delivery failure, then you know that there's a failure upstairs. The political administrative interface in any institution, particularly municipalities or politically charged institutions where there is public elections and the appointment of administrators, if that interaction is not glued together, you will see the failure where service delivery ought to take place, where we're supposed to be delivering water, where we're supposed to be solving the infamous potholes, where we're unable to interact with communities and society. At that stage, this is when, so you shouldn't look at failure when you're looking at the characteristics. It's the root. The root is in the leadership and the type of leadership that you have, which is characterized by both administrative leadership as well as the politically elected leadership in that institution.
And you as SALGA, you've called for a complete restructuring of municipal funding models. You've highlighted that municipalities need to deliver nearly half of all public services but receive only 10% of national fiscus.
Yeah.
And how is that going to inject the necessary change that you feel will impact upon the citizenry positively?
So what we've called for is the overhaul of the funding formula, if that language is easy with our listeners to hear. The reality is that when local government was designed by the fathers of our constitution in the country, the assumption was that local government will be able to raise 90% of its income on its own, and that 10%, well, you're saying 10%, the reality it's 9.5%, will be a contribution from the national fiscus.
Yeah.
The reality is that local governments in the past 30 years have struggled to raise that 90% on their own, because the sources of revenue that make up that 90% are themselves very dry sources. For instance, you rely on your household, you rely on your businesses to be having resources, money and income for them to be able to pay for rates and taxes. When they struggle to do that, and there's many people that are struggling, and it's not just those that are in the indigent list. If you look at the middle class as a sector, they're struggling. It has become very expensive to be living generally.
Yeah.
So we tend to sacrifice the most essential parts of our lives, which is water. And when you do that, and I'm using water as an example, it could be water, it could be electricity. At the end of the day, when we are struggling and we do not pay those rates and taxes, it means the municipality, the institution begins to suffer. Juxtapose that with the fact that local government as a sector is responsible for at least 42% of public services. So you have to deliver 42% of public services. You are only receiving only about 9.5% from national fiscus. That is a problem. Now, any private sector business person will tell you that that formula will not work for their business. It applies in local government as well. So there's no municipality that is going to have households that are struggling to pay for municipal services.
Yeah.
It's not going to be able to deliver services, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And where we are currently, 30 years later of democratizing local government, because that's the role of SALGA. SALGA's role is to continually transform local governments from erstwhile apartheid creations to institutions that are able to look at the non-racialness of our society, taking into account both those that can afford, those that cannot afford, and create, bake, and produce something that everybody, an economy, a social environment where everybody will be able to live and exist.
Sure.
And therefore grow and push up society. So it's a very difficult task.
Yeah.
Now, municipalities are struggling even at that basic of being able to deliver because they do not have sufficient resources. Now, you asked a question. If, because we are calling for an overhaul of the funding formula, are we going to solve municipal challenges? No. It's not going to happen in one day, but it helps to have more resources. What doesn't help is to have the characteristics that are not speaking kindly of local government. For instance, if you have corruption in these 257 municipalities, even if you were to give them more money, it's not going to solve. So at stake is leadership. goes back to that issue that we started with, the interaction and the interface between those that are elected and those that are appointed, the interaction between the mayor and the municipal manager.
Where do you jump in as SALGA when a municipality struggles? What is your role or your intervention directly?
So our role is to be the voice of local government. The good thing about our constitution, and it's one of very few in the entire world, our constitution principally recognizes local government as a sphere, a role player, not a poorer cousin, notwithstanding the fact that the current funding formula makes local government the poorer cousin, right? The reality is that we are recognized in the constitution, and as a consequence, all leaders in the public sector, all presidents, all premiers, all MECs, they have recognized local government. So we participate, for instance, in parliament. We are part and parcel of the National Council of the NCOP, the National Council of Provinces. We are part and parcel of the president's many platforms, the PCCs and the likes, because the voice of local government has to be heard. That's the first role of SALGA, to be that voice that brings on in the environment, in the conversation, what local government voice is saying. Secondly, we are there to play the role of being the employer representative body of local government. And we normally say, if you compare across all the sectors, local government labor relations between municipalities and our partners in the form of trade unions, we have been relatively stable. For the last, 12 years, you might have seen and experienced this and that strike, but ultimately, as a sector, we have been relatively stable. We play the support role. So if for any reason a municipality shouts out, hey, I need help, SALGA is there to provide. We have structures that are created within SALGA, both elected structures but also administratively. So in each province, there is a provincial director, there's a team of people whose role is to support that mayor, is to support that municipal manager, is to support that technical person or engineer that is playing a role.
Sure. Sithole Mbanga is CEO of South African Local Government Association. He's my guest, and we are asking a question: what does it take to fix a municipality? He's from SALGA, and that's the South African Local Government Authority. I'm keen to know precisely how you would intervene. Take, for instance, Municipality X says, as you've already alluded to them asking for help, they raise their hand to SALGA and say, consultants are actually absorbing much of our budgets around the issues of tax rebates or whatever it is. But we are overly subscribed with amounts of money that go to consultants. We need internal capacity. How would you intervene in that space?
Well, in that particular example, we have a team. I mean, we are divided into various components and teams, others focusing on water. There's a team that focuses on municipal finance, which is the bane of local government, as we have already alluded to earlier. And in that instance, we would encourage municipalities to make sure that when they employ or deploy consultants, which are independent entities, they have the capacity and capability to manage. There's nothing wrong with working with consultants, first and foremost. I don't think we must paint consultants badly. But if you decide you are the municipal manager of Municipality X, and over and above your permanent staff, you're going to employ consultants, and you do not manage those consultants, then those consultants are going to run all over you. They'll run all over the show and end up not completing the task for which they were employed. So you have to be able to manage that additional capacity that comes from outside and be clear about Why am I tasking this consultant?
Sure. I'm keen to know, and apologies to interrupt you. I'm just cognizant of time, so I want to jam pack as many questions as possible before we say goodbye to you. So I'm keen to know, I mean, we've already identified the finance model as a big problem. I mean, take the city of Johannesburg. On behind this very same microphone that you are speaking on right now, there was one official from the city. I don't want to put them on the spot by mentioning their names, but they were talking about the responsibility on roads and everything else. And they were saying that they need a minimum of 10 billion rands to properly look after the roads so that we stop. So if the issue is finances, I would assume that legislation plays a massive role for it to unlock the budget to flow this way in order for such services to be delivered effectively to residents. Do you lobby government, do you lobby parliament for transformation of legislation or for adequate legislation to make necessary changes?
Every day. That's what we do. Somewhere, somehow, there's a SALGA person who is speaking on behalf of local government and municipalities, talking about how things have to be done. A very typical example is that I think about a month ago, you would have picked up as the fraternity that local government went to parliament, SALGA went to parliament on behalf of local government to say to the Minister of Finance, you cannot withhold the equitable share from 66 municipalities. What you are really doing, you're squeezing the blood out of those municipalities, and ultimately, the people that will suffer are the households. And we need to find a different way. And I'm using finance as one typical example because there's quite a number of other things that we think local government ought to be enabled to do.
Sure.
So finance is one of them. Municipalities being enabled to drive the economy, because the economy is not only about the informality only. It's not only the informal. It's also the formal part of the economy. Leadership.
I have to apologize for being rude one more time, but that's basically for the listeners. We have a couple of calls. May I ask you to put on your head cans, please, and then I'll take Tsepo from Pretoria. Tsepo, I'm going to ask you to keep it brief so that we can go to David, and then we ask the CEO for the remaining few seconds to respond to both of you. Tsepo, you are first.
Yeah, my brother. Here's a solution. You need to do away with 256 municipalities and only have districts to be local. So what I'm trying to say is get rid of district. There is no role for district, but make a district a local. The aim there is to make more municipalities to have more customers, because the current model is that they must derive the revenue from sale of services to residents. Now, if you make more one municipality to have more customers, then you would have covered the revenue problem. And once you cover the revenue problem, then all of the other services will follow.
Tsepo, thanks for that. Please note that, Mr. Mbanga. Let's go quickly to David in Parkwood. David, the floor is yours.
Hi, Thabo. My question to your guest is with regard to football clubs that are currently sponsored by a municipality. What is the role of SALGA with
football clubs that are sponsored by municipalities? Sure.
The likes of Nelson Mandela Bay municipalities sponsoring Chipa United.
So the question is?
Sorry?
David, your question is about the football club that are sponsored by municipalities?
I'm asking what is the role of SALGA in that regard, because I do not see the return on investment.
Sure. David, much appreciated. Mr. Mbanga?
Thanks a lot. Let me start with David. So SALGA does not dictate and cannot dictate to municipalities. Municipalities are governments.
Yeah.
So if I were to utilize a model, the UN is what SALGA is to municipalities, because it's a platform where we share information, advise each other, but we cannot dictate what Nelson Mandela should be doing with its support.
Yeah.
And secondly, when it comes to Tsepo, perhaps it's okay to reduce the number of municipalities from 257 to whatever the reduced number will be. But it's not automatic that by reducing them, you are suddenly going to have a source of revenue. in those municipalities.
Makes perfect sense. Sadly, I'm flat out of time. I could
see.
speak to you for an hour. I apologize profusely. Really appreciate it. We're in conversation with Salga. What does it take to fix municipality? My guest is Tolembanga, CEO of South African Local Government Association. And strong communities, as you know, are built on strong local government. Every day, municipalities work to deliver essential services that improve lives and support thriving communities across South Africa. As a voice of local government, Salga represents, supports, and empowers municipalities to build capable institutions, promote good governance, and advance effective service delivery. Salga, inspiring service delivery.
The Checkers Hyper price drop is back. Save up to 40% on Cape Point frozen prawn meat 800 grams, 2 for 299 rand. Save 100 rand. Olive Joy olive and seed oil blend 1 litre, 2 for 99 rand. Save 75 rand. And Stay Soft fabric softener 2 litres, any 2 for 89 rand. Save 61 rand. Valid until 6 September. Only at Checkers Hyper.
Remember the first time your soul felt alive? That feeling is calling you back. Come to where your soul gets reborn through music at the Standard Bank Joy of J, featuring Ibrahim Maluf and Trump Michael Nj, Angelique Garcia, Floetry, Temba and African Keys, Judith Sipuma, Mekwai Mkhobata, Manan, and this sings plus over 40 world-class acts. 4 iconic stages, 1 unforgettable experience at the Central Convention Center. This Women Month, gather your circle and us the Joy Jazz Festival this September. Enjoy 10% off when you book festival tickets. This is Jazz Reignite. Get your weekend pass for the 25th and 26th September now via Ticketmaster.
The phone with more cracks than the family WhatsApp group. The car that desperately needs a wash. But what about the things that pays for all of the ability to work, earn, and maintain your lifestyle? Life can change quickly. That's why Liberty and 702 are having a conversation about protecting your lifestyle. This Wednesday on the Clement Manyathela Show, a Liberty expert answers your questions in Liberty Lifestyle Protection Conversations. WhatsApp 072 702 1702 with the keyword Liberty Protection. Humans who hope for the best but plan for the worst. Welcome. Liberty. In it with you on 702.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. The Madlanga Commission is yet to deal with an application requesting a postponement for Firoz Khan's appearance. The legal team of the suspended Deputy Head of Crime Intelligence arrived late this morning. Khan was subpoenaed to appear at the Commission today, but his lawyers say he has been hospitalized since the weekend. In the meantime, former Hawks head Godfrey Libya is back and continues to be cross-examined. Libya has been questioned about the theft of more than 500 kilograms of cocaine from the Hawks offices in KwaZulu-Natal in 2021. The consignment, with a street value of more than 200 million rand, was intercepted at a shipping container depot near Durban and was moved to the Hawks Port Shepstone office more than 100 kilometers away. The facility security systems were not working properly at the time. Then KZN Hawks head Lisija Sinona testified at the commission about the matter in June, shortly before resigning from his position. Sinona claimed he told Libya about the movement of the drugs, while Libya says he was unaware that the consignment was moved.
Because it's either that General Sinona is lying or you're lying, or you're both mistaken about what transpired.
I can't say that he is lying, and then I can't recall him informing me as to where he has stored the drugs. So that is the view that I had, that he did not inform me.
His testimony continues. Self-proclaimed political fixer Ramaphosa is applying for bail for the 4th time in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court today. Magwenya brought the application on what he says are new facts. He was arrested in May for allegedly staging his own assassination attempt. His bail has been denied 3 times, with the state opposing his release for several reasons, including allegedly lying about his residential address. Last week, investigators told the court that Magwenya was planning to escape from police custody. A medic who allegedly examined one of the people accused alongside alleged crime boss Vincent Magwenya is expected to take the stand this morning. The medic's testimony is expected to be crucial in a trial within a trial where the defense is challenging the admissibility of evidence allegedly obtained after Musa Kekana's arrest. The state has already heard conflicting accounts from two police officers who arrested Kekana about when and where he received medical attention. Magwenya, Kekana and two others face a combined 25 charges, including 11 counts of attempted murder, conspiracy to murder and defeating the ends of justice. Dimakasole Shuro has more.
Today's witness will be the fifth to testify in a trial within a trial which centers on the events of 17 April 2024, the day Musa Kekana was arrested. Kekana was admitted to hospital a month before his arrest after ingesting cocaine and alcohol. He was also diagnosed with tuberculosis and pneumonia and was reportedly coughing up blood. One officer told the court an ambulance was called for Kekana while at his house where a search and seizure was conducted without a warrant, while the other said Kekana was attended by medics at the scene of his arrest a few kilometers from his house. Kekana has alleged an ambulance was called where he was arrested after he was assaulted and suffocated at his house and started coughing up blood. Yesterday, a doctor who attended Kekana when he was later taken to hospital says Kekana told her he was assaulted at a police station, but police have denied assaulting him. Dimakasole Shuro, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg High Court.
And Russia has launched drones and ballistic missiles at Kyiv and its surrounding region overnight, killing at least 12 people and wounding 21. The Ukrainian government says the capital was hit today as children were set to return to school after the summer. Moscow has intensified its strikes on Kyiv more than 4.5 years into its invasion, with U.S. brokered talks frozen and the Kremlin not dropping its demand to end the war. Kyiv has tightened security following weeks of attacks. Gold is trading at $4,434.42 an ounce. The rand is at 16.12 to the dollar, 21.83 to the pound, 18.70 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $91.15 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N17 West between Osborne Road and Wits Rifles Road due to roadworks. There's also queuing traffic along the M1 South between Empire Road and the Crown Interchange. That's due to an accident there, so please be on the lookout and try to avoid. You can still use the N1 South through a road report.
A fine day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 26 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: the Madanga Commission is yet to deal with an application requesting a postponement for Firoz Khan's appearance.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Live
On the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7.
and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
Seven minutes after 11 o'clock. Thanks very much for joining us. Thabo Shole Mashao. We're together till 12 in for Clement. Happy to be with you. In the previous hour, we had a very interesting discussion with the CEO of SALGA, and this was about fixing municipalities. I'm sure that's a topic that would concern you more than any other at this time, especially ahead of November 4th elections 2026. As many of us will be going to the polls to elect local leaders who would be best suited to lead our respective municipalities. How do you fix them? How do we get services delivered? And what sort of leadership do we need to do that? And that's why we had that conversation with Salga a little bit earlier on. I know a number of you were interested in throwing your inputs. Sadly, we ran out of time. I apologize profusely for not entertaining some of the calls and the interactions adequately. Bear with me, we were completely out of time. This hour is equally compelling, if not more. We will be looking at the world of work. CEOs, they are earning millions and millions and millions. But do they deserve the millions they're earning? Let us know.
702
World of Work.
I mean, as I said, they earn millions, CEOs, and sometimes hundreds of millions of rands, while the majority of workers right there at the bottom are fighting to keep up with living costs, just buying clothes, bread, and transport money to go to that particular work. And, well, it's a subject that regularly sparks outrage every now and then. How can one person, just one person, be paid even hundreds of millions of rands in a year, when ordinary employees below them may earn a fraction of that, if anything else, if not even a decimal point of that. But being a CEO, on the other hand, of a major company is also a job with huge responsibilities. CEOs are ultimately accountable for strategy. They account for profitability. They are also accountable for thousands of employees and shareholders, more importantly, shareholders, regulators, customers, and increasingly the reputation and survival of the organization itself, because the CEO becomes the embodiment of what that entity, what that company ought to be. So how is CEO pay actually determined? And we are joined now by Dr. Vumi Lemsweli, career and executive coach, founder of Heset Consulting and the Africa Career Summit. Dr. Msweli, thanks for your time. Good morning. Welcome to 702.
Good morning, Tabo, and good morning to your listeners.
You know, we complain that CEOs are paid this much. I tried in a very layman's term to explain what CEOs do. But before we perhaps get to the money, can we maybe get to the work and appreciate what is it that goes into a role of a CEO?
So I think, when we look at the role of the CEO and why they're getting paid so much, we need to understand what a company is actually paying for. So I think we might start by saying that companies aren't simply paying for someone to sit in the biggest office. They are paying for someone who can make judgment calls at scale. A CEO of a large listed organization might be responsible for tens of thousands of employees, billions of rands of shareholder capital, regulatory relationships, customers, reputation, strategy, and decisions that can either create or destroy billions in value. And we need to understand that also getting the right person in the right seat is very, very difficult, because there's a scarcity premium on CEOs. There are many competent executives, but a significantly smaller pool of people who can credibly run a multinational bank, an insurance company, mining company, or even a retailer. But scarcity, cannot necessarily become a blank check. The remuneration question should always be, what is this individual being paid to deliver? Over what period and what level of risk? And what happens when they fail? And I think this is particularly important because CEO remuneration has been rising. PwC analyzed the JSE top 200 and found that the median CEO total remuneration increased by 8% in 2025. And that remuneration was approximately 21.3 million. And it's, with a guaranteed pay of average about 8.35, short-term incentives around 6.5, and long-term incentives about 5.9. And I think it's important for us to understand that we're not paying CEOs for the hours they worked. We are paying them for the economic consequences of their decisions. But the size of those consequences are not necessarily saying, we make them exempt from scrutinizing their package.
And also, you would think that those who are a little lesser or at the bottom rung of that particular ladder would be carrying a heavier load. Is it your summation that perhaps we are unfair if we were to equate or juxtapose these loads as relatively as we do? Because as much as someone at the bottom rung may be working perhaps extra hours, more laborious task, and more visible engagement. And then we see a CEO swinging a club of golf, wearing a very expensive golf shirt and interacting and smiling with other CEOs and very important people. They are equally pulling the same amount of weight.
I think it's not pulling the same amount of weight as opposed to the value that's actually being brought in, right? So the reality of being a CEO is really different from what people outside the boardroom imagine. It's enormously different. From the outside, we tend to see the salary, the car, the golf, the prestige, the office, and we don't necessarily see what I call the concentration of accountability. When something goes wrong, a CEO can't say, sorry, that wasn't my department. Every single thing that happens in the business is his department. The cyber attack is their problem. The strike is their problem. The share price collapse is their problem. The regulator is their problem. The executive who behaved unethically ultimately becomes their problem. And increasingly, CEOs operate in what leadership scholars are describing as a multi-stakeholder environment. They're simultaneously accountable to shareholders, boards, regulators, employees, customers, communities, government, and increasingly environmental and social expectations. But I would resist the idea that pressure itself just, justifies the extraordinary pay. I think nurses operate under pressure, police officers operate under pressure, entrepreneurs operate under pressure. And I think that economic justification is not simply stress, it's responsibility, it's complexity, it's scarcity of capability, and measurable value creation. So I think we need to be very, very clear that when your KPIs come in and you fulfill them, you're not necessarily having as many stakeholders, and the decisions you're making cannot result in an entire organization collapsing.
And earlier on, Dr. Msweli, you spoke about having the right person on the right seat in the right office. And I would assume that it takes proper headhunting to find that individual, and it would take time. And that person may not necessarily come from a pool of executives that are there. In some instances, they have to go out and find someone and bring them on. The examples are many to that effect. And there was a very interesting piece, which I'm sure you would have seen, about the top 10 highest paid CEOs in South Africa in 2025 by Dr. Salome Tuterberg. And then she argues that amongst others, the top 5 earners are all non-South African executives paid in euros or US dollars. So going out and finding a CEO outside our boundaries of South Africa, that would, I would assume, also add to the cost, but it goes hand in hand with the ethos that the company wants to display.
It definitely does. And, often, when we are looking outside of our borders, it's usually because we don't have the skill set within our borders. And I think for me, that speaks to the lack of talent pool management and pipeline investment. So I think there is a need for us to start looking as to how do we develop people within our borders to take over the CEO role. That's one. The second is also being very, very clear that when we are purchasing in euros and dollars for a particular skill set, that a skills transfer actually happens. So I think one that is makes financial and economic sense for organizations, but also I think it's important for us to know that that skill set can then be nuanced with someone who is comfortable with the lay of the land in the country, because they know those social norms, even though they might not necessarily have the business acumen required at that level. So I think it speaks to how, as human capital professionals, are ensuring that that succession plan is clear, ensuring that the skills are being developed locally.
The common man like myself on the ground, and you may argue that we know very little on the ground, would argue that as soon as the company goes through some difficulties, it's people at the bottom who are meant to shoulder responsibility also financially, not to get their bonuses, not to get an increase. They'd be told that you saw that the company is not doing well. But with CEOs, sometimes even when the company is doing terribly, they would be getting incentives, bonuses, and so on. We have a recent example as referred to by Business Insider about Pick n Pay having awarded chief executive 2 million conditional shares, currently worth approximately $2.4 million. How do you explain that? What is the matrix of that the company may not be doing well? The guy at the bottom is not getting an increase, but the CEO is getting a beautiful fat bank account.
Yeah, so when we look at types of remuneration, usually it's departmental performance that then rises to the top, right? To the overall CEO. And I think we need to ask employees to separate through questions. First of all, what is salary versus performance-related remuneration? That's the first thing. Then second, of what period was the remuneration earned? And thirdly, what was the value that was created? So if a CEO receives 50 million, but overall creates 20 billion in sustainable shareholder value, while growing employment and improving profitability, not necessarily, if your department's not necessarily generating revenue, but the CEO goes on to maintain excellent governance and economic conversations, it's different from someone just receiving 50 million while destroying value. So I think, Capitec provides a useful example of what long-term value creation matters, right? In 2026, when they disclosed, outgoing CEO, I think it was Free, vested share options, and the share appreciation rights accounted for significant long-term incentive values that he accumulated through earlier awards. So the company explicitly linked his tenure to substantial long-term value creation. So that's something we need to think about. And I think it's important that people realize that, we don't just experience remuneration through spreadsheets. The experience of fairness is very, very important. So when an employee is earning 15,000 per month hears that one executive received 100 million, they have to understand that 72% probably was long-term incentives. So it doesn't necessarily automatically resolve the perceived injustice, but we need to understand that leadership requires explaining both the mathematics and the morality of the package. That it's the value that the CEO has brought overall, and even sometimes the value in just protecting the balance sheet, in not losing money,
But
is something that we need to be aware of.
yeah, but I could also argue I am adding value, which is never calculated. That could be over more than 20 or so percent, but I'm not going to see that in incentives that are given to the CEO in that very same vein. You see, and in that way, how do we strike a balance, or is it only people at the top whose value can be quantified and therefore incentivized accordingly?
I always like to say when I'm coaching people, if you can't show your exact contribution to the bottom line, you're in trouble. That means you can't articulate your value. If you can't articulate your value, you can't put a number to the value that you've brought, which means how do we know that you're actually adding value to begin with? So I think it's important for us as employees to be able to articulate that when you are looking at that net profit, this is the amount I bought. And also then, make sure it's the net that you bought, right? Because you're obviously getting a salary as well.
Sure.
So I think it's important for us as employees to be able to articulate our value. Your ability to do that then justifies your ability to complain and say, how come so-and-so is getting so much money when I'm not? And I think that's not just even at the CEO level. I think it's even with your colleagues.
But the same barometer that determines the CEO's value ought to be the same barometer used to determine the shop floor employee's value as well. Wouldn't that be accurate?
I think the same barometer, yes, but not necessarily the same key performance indicators.
Sure, I'm talking about barometer, the measuring stick. Of course, they are at different levels, so that I would easily appreciate. Yeah. But I'm just saying, it should not be up to me to determine my value when the company has a barometer with which they measure the CEO's performance. I would assume that they would be equally interested in measuring my performance equally and having some system in place to do that.
No, I completely agree with you there that what's fair for Peter must be fair for Paul. So with that, I completely agree with you. I think the challenge comes in when we're looking at key performance indicators, it tends to be very qualitative as opposed to quantitative.
Sure.
So I think that's where we, even as employees, we need to challenge back and say, what does this mean in numerical terms?
Yeah.
But I completely agree with you.
Let me just bring in the listeners to our conversation on 072 702 1702.
Tabo, I assume you're talking about CEOs of private companies and private listed companies. Just another thought, the CEOs of public entities and state-operated entities also earn millions and millions, and many of them are entirely competent, whereas in the private sector, incompetence is going to get you fired quickly. Take, for example, the Joburg entities, City Power, Joburg Water, and so on. They earn millions. What do they do for that?
Hi, Tabo. With all due respect, I disagree with your guest a little bit. So a lot of the time, the multinationals have a foreign CEO because they use the developing countries as training wheels and to springboard a candidate for a bigger role in the group. So it's typically in a group environment. You do have here and there where you have CEOs that are non-South African, but not for that reason. But most of the time in the M&Es, that's the reason.
Very much interesting. Dr. Msweli, I don't know if you want to opine on that.
Yes. So I agree with the lady when she says that that often happens, but we also see it even in with South African companies taking a lot of talent to other parts of the continent to get them, those training wheels, I suppose, as she put aptly. So I do see that that lens. I do, however, disagree in the understanding that necessarily it's just for training. I do think there is a certain skill set that they are also that they have that we might not necessarily have found in the country, and that's also seen with organizations that are not necessarily multinationals.
And there was also a bit of a concern from the previous caller who says that who drew a dichotomy between public sector and the private sector, saying that in the public sector there are many CEOs who are not competent, but in the and they are not taken into account, and they do not necessarily face the wrath of the shareholder even when they are not performing adequately, as opposed to the former in the private space. One little thing and they are out of the door, they are suspended and they're kicked out almost immediately. And I find that very interesting, Dr. Msweli, because in this instance, we do have CEOs who are in their jobs somehow because they belong to certain boys' clubs, so to speak, colloquially. They are not an odd Thabo from Soweto in Dobsonville is not going to be headhunted. No matter his skills and his background, because he went to a school in Soweto and his alumni is not, St. Michael's or whatever, Michael House or any other school, and he doesn't play golf, he doesn't fish, he doesn't hang around with Mr. Fihla. So even though he's competent, we're not going to bring him on board. So, speak to us about the elitism that goes with that. It seems as if it's a closed network. And so to say that the public sector at times does not hold others to account is also a little bit unfair, because this side, you have to speak in a certain way. You have to go to certain holiday homes for you to be considered a CEO.
So I want to touch on what your previous caller had said, and I completely agree with him. I fundamentally believe that performance, specifically for CEO, should be the majority of the remuneration should be performance linked. So if you're not performing, you should not be getting millions and millions in rands for bonuses. So I completely agree with that. The second piece is, you're quite right. The reality is people hire people they know and people they like. So cracking the network in order for you to have access to the opportunity is fundamentally an elitist thing, which is probably why we notice, in large organizations, they tend to be a trait where it's always most similar people who are getting the job. There's a recycling, and there's a pipeline of talent that they know and that they nurse and cultivate, which then obviously opens up the door for them. It is very difficult for a Thabo sitting in Soweto who's not playing golf, who doesn't cycle, who doesn't fish, to get access to the opportunity or just to be considered, let alone be invited for the interview. So I think that the elitism of it is definitely a challenge. And I think for me, how we disrupt that is by ensuring that we start getting intentional about diversifying our talent pool, and not just saying it works great at the bottom rungs, but saying it has to work at the same level in the executive circle as well.
No, very interesting. My guest, Dr. Vumile Msweli, career and executive coach, founder of Hazard Consulting and the Africa Career Summit. We're chatting about CEO remunerations in South Africa, and the time now is 28 minutes after 11 o'clock.
Hi, Thabo. No, I hear your guest justifying why the CEOs are being paid more. I'm of a view that it's unfair. Yes, they have a big scope of work. Every department is their department. But these people are surrounded by a lot of managers who do the groundwork. And in turn, those managers have people who do the groundwork. It's unfair that they earn so well. Let's take, for instance, Andre Director. He had no knowledge or any technical knowledge, engineering knowledge, basically, on how to run NESCOM. But there were a lot of managers that were surrounding him, giving him the technical reports that he knows nothing of. So it's really not fair that they earn so much, whereas in some areas of their department, nothing, they just take reports from the managers or workers who do the ground. Thank you, Speak.
I think before you respond, let me read this and we can parting shot. Doctor is very response to your questions. In reality, subordinates are the ones formulate strategy. CEOs provide oversight as well, face and voice to the trajectory of the organization. Heavy lift at the bottom of it, which is the least compensated. There are many layers in organizations for the CEO to be solely accountable where there are challenges. That challenge ends up on the lap of junior personnel to help solve for, to which the CEO speaks to. As you close, Dr. Msweli.
I think the CEO deserves an extraordinary award because the company performed extraordinarily well. That performance, we have to realize, was actually created by the CEO. And I think we need to be cognizant of that. And then also, I don't think we can justify someone earning 100 times more than they least paid employee. But I do have to say, if the buck stops with you and you're making the decision with that either results in the organization still remaining a going concern or not, you should be remunerated for that. I don't think it should be exorbitant, but I think we have to realize that because the scope and the consequences of the job are greater, they should earn something that is reasonable. But at the top of the organogram by itself is not a justification for unlimited remuneration.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm sure we'll have this discussion again in the near future. Just to give a bit of perspective on the top 5, at least top 3 of the CEO's remuneration, 178,000 rands for a CEO of SA InBev, NESPA CEO at over 102,000, and here BHP Group Limited, 150 million, not thousand, sorry, million, 150 million, and the British America Tobacco, 154 million, and Northern Platinum, 223 million. Over that, it's 29 minutes to 12 o'clock. I don't think he's getting 124 million rand per news bulletin, but she's here nonetheless. Mbali, thanks very much for joining us. Welcome. What's the latest?
Thanks, Tabo. A very good morning. Well, conflicting statements are emerging at the Madlanga Commission, where retired Hawks head Godfrey Lebeya is on the stand today. Lebeya is being questioned over the theft of more than 500 kilograms of cocaine from the Hawks offices in Port Shepstone in 2021. That consignment, worth more than 200 million rand, was intercepted at a shipping container depot near Durban in June of that year. The case against Mpumalanga taxi boss Joe Ferrari Sibanyoni and his co-accused has been postponed to October 20th. While they appeared briefly in the Dalmas Magistrates Court this morning, Sibanyoni and 3 others are facing extortion and money laundering charges. The state alleges the group extorted more than 2.2 million rand from a businessman. And extortion continues to disrupt service delivery in Cape Town, with 15 projects currently affected. A further 17 projects are being affected by interference from so-called business forums, with 2 of those projects also brought to a halt. The city says extortion has become a major and growing crisis. Well, those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
Traveling in the Joburg CBD, we've got a major accident on the M1 South. It happened right near the Crown interchange. Delays coming out of Empire Road. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N12 West between the Inville Road exit and the Kilulis interchange. Roadworks are causing these delays, so please be on the lookout there or try to use alternative routes like Modderfontein Road through the N3. And then if you're traveling in Boksburg, unfortunately more roadworks are causing delays along the N17 between Wits Rifles Road and Osborne Road. About a 15-minute hold up there. Please be on the lookout and approach with care. We'll have more updates for you at the top of the hour. Do stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
John Perlman. Weekday afternoons.
3 to 6.
It really does beg the question, why, when this could make such a big difference to South Africans, this just doesn't get quicker with any sense of urgency. When you at the AA started fighting for this issue, were you pushing against a locked door or an open one?
We were definitely pushing against a locked door, to be honest with you. 2 doors, to be specific. One was the state, very slow to respond. The wheels of the government turned very slowly. And then the other was the manufacturers and distributors themselves. They've always used the law as a crutch.
John Perlman.
3 to 6 on 702.
Mr. Daycare Sang the Blues is a theatrical adaptation of the 2025 Dalro Cantemba Merit Award-winning fictional story by Jonzo Kwinika. This play, with music, offers a moving reflection on the loss of an artist with themes of grief, family, friendship, and love. Mr. Daycare Sang the Blues runs at Market Theatre from 13 September to 4 October. The music will haunt you. The story will stay with you. Tickets are available at webtickets or markettheatre.co.za.
Looking to save money on your business insurance? Switch to Outsurance Business Insurance and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. Here's Niku from the Gas Mart.
I was my previous insurer for 9 years before switching to Outsurance Business Insurance. I'm very happy with my premiums at the moment. I wish we switched sooner to Outsurance Business Insurance.
Get a quote to switch and save today. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60,000. Licensed insurer and FSP. And information online.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
702.
Health and Wellness.
Indeed, health and wellness. The Health Matters feature is brought to you by Cipla. Stay connected with us. Catch the full feature on the Prime Media Plus app, primemediaplus.com, or WhatsApp the keyword health to 072 702 1702. 24 minutes to 12 o'clock, and this is Health and Wellness. As I said, today we're trying to understand better about social anxiety, and my guest will give us a little bit of insights on the topic. They will hold our hands in understanding this social anxiety a little bit more, because you know that for some people, the thought of walking into a room full of strangers, or speaking in a meeting, answering a question in public space, or even just a phone call can trigger a real sense of fear. And we often dismiss such people as, they're just shy. This person is introverted, or simply not a people's person. They're not a people's person. But for someone experiencing social anxiety, ordinary interactions can bring intense fear of being judged, and somewhat embarrassment as well, and rejected and humiliated, sometimes leading them to avoid situations altogether. So on health and wellness, my guest, Vuyisiwe Nxumalo, joins us right now. Vuyisiwe, thanks for your time. Welcome to 702.
Good. It's still morning. Good morning, Tabo, and thank you so much for having me today.
contrary to how it feels, it's still morning. Thanks very much for joining us. And Vuisiwe Ngumalo is private social worker. And Vuisiwe is going to guide us through this conversation. And let's start, perhaps, if you don't mind, Vuisiwe, with the basics. What exactly is social anxiety to an untrained person, untrained ear like myself? And how is it different from simply being shy or being uncomfortable around strangers?
Thank you, Tabo. In most cases, we do really have people who confuse being shy with social anxiety. Social anxiety is an intense and persistent fear of being judged. So it's not just about you being scared of doing things, but it is also the fear of being judged, of being embarrassed or even rejected or negatively viewed by people within social situations. This is not necessarily being shy, because a shy person might be comfortable in smaller groups of people, in smaller scale engagements, and they might be shy to take on other bigger platforms, but they still do it, right? But with someone who suffers from social anxiety, it goes as far as barring them from actually participating in whether small scale engagement or even big scale engagement. This causes them significant distress where, they start avoiding situations that will require them to actively engage with anyone, or even in something as simple as a phone call. So that's the difference. When you are shy, but you still go on. But when you are experiencing social anxiety, you end up avoiding things so that you don't have to go through that intense, persistent feeling of fear, of being judged, being embarrassed, or even rejected.
Is it psychologically embedded to a large extent? The fear of being judged, by the way.
Sometimes it stems from past experiences, such as bullying, such as family criticism, childhood traumatic experiences, sometimes even lack of support and having previous difficulties in relationships, workplace, or toxic workplace environments. It stems from quite a number of things. And from a social worker's perspective, we don't necessarily just look at what is happening within the person, that they are feeling fearful, that they have a persistent fear of being rejected and whatnot, but we also look at what is happening around that person, or what happened around that person that led to them feeling this way, because no one is exactly born with social anxiety. It's something that you develop over time due to various experiences.
It's quite fascinating that no one is born with it. I mean, and I love the distinction that you're making, that you could be shy but still be there and not be afraid to be judged and not have social anxiety, shy as you are. And I'm that classical example. I'm extremely shy, but I show up when I need to. So, but this fear, clearly it's detrimental to one's career. Please explain to us, if you will, how does it actually feel like for someone experiencing it? Do they withdraw into a cocoon? What happens to them? Is it physiological? Is it only psychological? What happens to that person at that particular point when they're supposed to be ascending the stage and I'm calling their name, that Mr. Aben Mabelani, please come forward? At that point, what happens?
Social anxiety can affect a person emotionally, it can affect them mentally, and it can also affect them physically, where, for example, on the emotional aspect, one would feel intense fear, shame, or even embarrassment, even before they actually take on the stage, because in
in their minds, mentally, they're already thinking, what if I embarrass myself? What if the people don't like me? What if I'm being judged? What if I make a mistake? So the emotional and the cognitive or mental side part of it is emotionally you feel pain, shame, and embarrassment, and then mentally you will be flooded by anticipation of negative things, such as being judged, making a mistake, you know, wondering whether people will actually accept what you are saying, and if they do not accept it, how far will they take it? You know, you have all those things lingering in your mind. And physically, someone with social anxiety might experience excessive sweating. They might experience trembling, a pacing heart, like they're having heart palpitations, severe ones. They might feel nauseous, and even experience difficulty speaking. So a person might not stutter naturally, but because of their fear, because of the social anxiety that they have, they might end up being unable to actually articulate whatever it is that they want to share at that point in time. And then it comes back to what they were already thinking that now, since I couldn't say this particular word the way I wanted to say it, then surely the people are judging me, the audience is judging me, and they then feel embarrassed after that. So it does affect you in all manners, physically, emotionally, and also mentally.
Have you experienced social anxiety as a person? Do you know someone who has? Please shout. And if you are that person who suffers from social anxiety, do share with us. I'd love to hear from you personally as to what that experience is all about. How do you feel? But most importantly, how do you manage to maneuver through life having this massive hindrance? And does it in any way affect your earnings as far as jobs, opportunities are concerned? And how has it affected you, social anxiety? And do people understand that you have social anxiety? Do they judge you for that? I genuinely want to hear from people who have social anxiety. Please do share with us. Give us a call. Alternatively, I suppose it might be a little bit easier to just send a voice note in the comfort of your car, your home, or any other space, and just share your experiences as someone who suffers from social anxiety. You can send that voice note to 072 702 1702. 072 702 1702. My guest is Voisiwe Umalo, private social worker, and Voisiwe deals with these instances all the time. And we have asked her to come and hold our hand in this very seemingly simple yet profound conversation about understanding social anxiety. Voisiwe, to what extent can this be a hindrance to your success in life, especially in a career of your choice? Social anxiety, that is.
This can significantly affect one's life. For example, you would find that a person is very much capable of executing whatever duties that they have been tasked with. However, because of their social anxiety, they avoid actually exploring in terms of their career because they have to go through an interview process to get that job. They would avoid networking with other people, doing presentations, speaking in meetings, even though their views are very much needed and are actually, they could be game changers, but because of that social anxiety and the fear of being judged, the fear of embarrassing themselves, they end up not, putting themselves out there and actually getting the recognition that they deserve because of their abilities. So this can significantly, affect a person, especially during your career development years. While you are still in that working age where you find people not progressing, and you wonder, how have you been in this position for so long if your work is so good? Only to realize that they have not been chasing their dreams because of this brick wall called social anxiety that they suffer from.
Let us know on 0727021702. Temba here says, "Morning Tabo, I'm that person and I don't know how to come out of it." Share with us, ma'am, about how to come out of it, because is this a life sentence where you are stuck in the social anxiety for the rest of your life and there's nothing you can do? Is there training that you can open yourself up to shake off the sloth of social anxiety?
Of course, of course. One of the greatest things that you can do for yourself is exposing yourself. Now, the problem with us, especially young people, we feel that big exposure means big impact, whereas you can start gradually. For example, if you're just walking around at a mall, you can just make eye contact with a stranger, because another thing that people with social anxiety suffer from is making eye contact. So you can start small, make eye contact with a stranger, just randomly say hi to someone that you do not know, or even a colleague. Ask for assistance at a shop, because people with social anxiety even fear those things that, if I ask this lady where I can find the deodorants at the store, then I'd be embarrassing myself. So you start small. You don't have to walk into a room filled with 200 people for you to get over your social anxiety. But the little bits of progress or attempts that you are making to actually expose yourself bit by bit play a very huge role in how you can better manage your state of social anxiety.
072-702-1702. I'd love to hear from you. And I know it's very difficult to ask people who have social anxiety to call in. And but I'm taking my chances here. Humor me, indulge me on 072-702-1702.
Hi, 702.
It's the small
Nice to your guest.
changes.
I'd like to remain anonymous. I have social anxiety. I'm also medicated on it. It's with my job. I'm a pharmaceutical sales rep, and it's not easy having social anxiety and having to interact with people on a daily basis, different people. I sit with the script in my car before I head out to the pharmacy or deal with the healthcare profession. My life has to be very organized and to the T because of the anxiety, and one mishap or one out of line, it can really affect my whole day actually.
Hi everyone, this is Robert Lomanare from Piri in Soweto. Quite an interesting topic, and I'll tell you why it's interesting to me. I feel my partner suffers from social anxiety. She's an amazing woman, but when it comes to being in front of the crowd, she trembles, she doesn't know what to say, and yet I'm the complete opposite of what she is. By the way, I'm a professional MC, so I feed off the crowd, I get my energy off the crowd. So I've been trying to assist her, training her, and she's in a position where she works, where she's supposed to be doing presentations, but it's a problem for her. I've enrolled her in Toastmasters. It's kind of helping her, but I just want to ask the dog there, what more can I do to assist her? Thank you. It's Robert again from Piri in Soweto.
Robert, thanks very much for that. Voice Ngomalo.
Thank you so much, Robert. And I'm very happy that you are actively trying your best to assist your partner in them navigating their social anxiety. Now, I think it still goes back to that exposure therapy that I spoke of earlier. You do not want to overwhelm someone with a social anxiety because it could trigger them and it could cause more harm than good. So let's start small, if there's a small gathering of people, bring her there. You don't have to take her to big stages and get her to speak in large platforms for them to actually better transition into understanding their social anxiety and also finding their feet. So just try having bits and pieces in terms of helping them. You can help them by seeking professional help also from a social worker or a psychologist who can help them develop their conversation skills. If they have to be presenting all the time in the work that they are in, then having conversation skills training is a startup, but also they need to maintain eye contact. Have them train themselves to maintain eye contact. Have them train themselves to build their confidence through engaging with people, not large-scale groups. You can start small in a social friendship setting where they have to engage or they're encouraged to engage in conversation and and not really care much what the other person thinks of them, because that's what harms people suffering from social anxiety. It's the thought of what will others say about me. So it's just starting small and then progressing gradually towards bigger things.
We can't touch on all the aspects of this very important topic, Visiwe, but I have to thank you for your time. Before I say goodbye, how do people reach you?
Okay. I am reachable on my socials, which is Visiwe Ngumalo Qiliwe on Facebook and Instagram. I'm also reachable on email, where you email visiwe@gmail.com. And also on my cell number, which is 0711 381 262, or you can just pop a WhatsApp message there and we will gladly assist you.
I thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you, and I'm sure that we'll do it again. Really appreciate your time. Visiwe Ngumalo, private social worker. It is exactly 4 minutes to 12 o'clock. Life doesn't slow down, and neither do you. Whether you are heading to work, traveling, or spending time in busy spaces, staying prepared matters. That's why you should keep Immune close by. With 19 active ingredients, Immune supports proper immune function, assists in the relief of cold symptoms, and helps relieve symptoms associated with upper respiratory tract infections. Support your immune system and stay ready for whatever the day brings. Immune, upgrade your defense.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Human rights and Ubuntu are not the same thing. In the same way that Zionism and Judaism are not the same thing. In the same way that Islam and jihadism are not the same thing. African solidarity and love for one another is not the same thing as this thing that we have now been told is African solidarity and love, called Pan-Africanism. It's not the same thing. That other one has got a political agenda that serves a small group of people, takes away from the owners and keeps them gaslit, so that when they raise issues of service delivery and lack of governance, they are told that you don't love your brother because you are not Pan-Africanist enough. Until Africans begin to push back and say, we know this thing.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to 8 on 2.
No 2.
Still to get your name on the title deed, the SA Home Loans believes that you should own the land I want, and that starts with speaking to the passionate specialists at SA Home Loans. They will make it happen. To find out more, visit sahomeloans.com. That's sahomeloans.com, or call 0860 246 810. That's 0860 246 810. It's time to start if you want. SA Home Loans is registered largest credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Experience the rush with Hollywood Bet, aviation and adrenaline for to win one of once in a lifetime ultimate Abu Dhabi Grand Prix experiences and your share R1 million in cash. With a go full throttle, big 10 or more on jets, and you could jet off to the United Arab Emirates. Competition runs 10 August to 30 September 2026. Bet now. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners no up. South African Responsible Gambling Commission toll-free counselling line 0800 or WhatsApp help to 076 75 0710.
Are you an investor who likes easy access to your money, or do you prefer locking it away?
Absolutely, to both.
ABSA has an account for you up to 7.5%. ABSA Convert Tracker and get immediate access to your money. Or earn up to 7.7% with a 12-month dynamic fixed deposit account. Invest on the ABSA app. Your story matters. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. Minimum investment required. Rates July 2026.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy.
Between 12 and 1, Mandy Winner will give you riveting show that you ought not miss. Mandy, you're coming from Cape Town. Good morning. Hi.
Well, how's it going?
All good. How's it going that side, and what's coming up on the show?
Thank you. So Peter Mosimane is the new Bafana coach. We all knew that was going to happen, but it's now been formally announced. So almost today, the taxi boss at the Madlanga Commission, Feroz Khan, is applying for a postponement. General Labia back on the stand there. We'll have a look at Parliament's Impeachment Committee getting advice on the appointment of its evidence leader. And Stats SA has released its Victims of Crime survey to give us a perspective on crime stats in South Africa.
The Midday Report between 12 and 1 with Mandy Winner. My name is Thabo Shola. I enjoyed spending time with you. Thanks to you and thanks to the fantastic team. Have a great day.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Vali Dlamini. The Madlanga Commission is dealing with a postponement application by the lawyers of suspended crime agents Deputy Feroz Khan. Khan was subpoenaed to appear at the Commission today, but his lawyers say he has been in hospital since Sunday. Khan was previously hospitalized after being wounded in a shooting in Houghton in June. He was then discharged in July. While he was in the hospital, the Madlanga Commission